Hello, everybody. Welcome to this special meeting of the Rancho Santa Margarita City Council. I'm going to call this meeting to order, and we will begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. Councilmember Barrett, would you like to lead us?
Place your hand over your heart. Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thanks very much. Could we have a roll call, please?
Mayor Beal.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem McGurr.
Here.
Councilmember Baird.
here.
Councilmember Figueroa.
Here.
Councilmember Holloway.
Here.
That brings us to item 1, public comments. Today, this is a special meeting, so members of the public are permitted to address the City Council only on items that are listed on our special meeting agenda. Do we have any speaker requests?
We have none.
Okay, thank you very much. So we'll go into item 2, study session 2.1, fiscal year 2025-26 budget development workshop. Who would like to kick us off?
I'll kick it off. If we could go forward one slide, just one forward. Thank you. So we are here tonight for the 25-26 budget development workshop. And given we're going to do things a little bit different this evening, given that in the past couple of years we've gone through the budget development workshops in less than the time allotted. We're hopeful that we can accommodate both the general fund and the CIP this evening. If not, then we will proceed to the 14th to conclude that. However, there's not a lot of changes. There's not a lot of movement other than a few increases here and there, but there's nothing that's being proposed that's much different than the current fiscal year. And so we feel that staff can get through that in the time allotted this evening. We will take a break about midway through the workshop. Maybe between 5:30 and 6 would be a good time to take a short break. And we're going to, after Stephanie runs through the revenues and the reserves model, then we'll get into the general fund, and we're going to really go in terms of order of our largest expenditure category and then work our way down through there. So at one point, we're going to turn over to the CIP when Joe Parco begins to talk about public works. And we just feel that will allow us to get through in the time allotted this evening. Again, if we need to, we will conclude on the 14th if that becomes necessary. But with that, staff's been working really hard on this budget, and we feel very good about all of the numbers that are presented here. As always, they are recommendations, and it is council's direction and decision on how to proceed from this point. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Stephanie.
Great. Thank you, Ms. City Manager. So as we go into our budget process, one of the first things we kind of go through is ensuring that under public safety, we're maintaining existing staffing and focus. We look at essential services in order to maintain at our current levels. Financial growth right now is we look at as minimum, but yet stable revenue growth. We have excellent staff here, and so we continue to invest in skill development and the retention of those employees and overall the quality of life for the citizens here through investments in infrastructure and enhancements. So the development of the fiscal year 25-26 budget has proceeded smoothly, and we expect stable revenues with an overall modest expenditure growth. Departments were asked to keep increases to a minimum in order to accommodate contractual rate increases, inflationary pricing, and targeted increases to maintain services to accomplish required projects or desired priorities. Although sales tax revenues are expected to be flat when compared to the fiscal year 24-25 budget, modest growth is expected when you compare it to year-end estimates. Investment earnings remain strong. We anticipate overall the general fund operational revenue growth to be approximately 2% when you take out all transfers from other funds. The largest operational increases to the expenditure budget outside of the law enforcement contract are street maintenance, animal control, and some costs within HR due to insurances. Those details for all the departments will be discussed on the later slides. Overall, the proposed budget includes a nominal general fund surplus and some planned use of general fund reserves for one-time expenditures. As always, please stop me at any time as I'm going through all of this. So first, we'll discuss the general fund reserves outlook, and from there, we'll go into revenues and high-level expenditures. The total city's reserve balance for the audited year ended fiscal year 23-24 was $38.6 million, which that includes general fund and special revenue funds. A portion of this balance is restricted due to state and federal requirements, and within the general fund, some of that balance has been encumbered for specific uses. Of the general fund balance, $33.9 million is unrestricted and is the amount that was used in the initial year of the reserve model. From there, based on mid-year estimates, the current fiscal year 24-25 general fund balance is expected to be $32.2 million. The reserve model forecasts revenues and expenditures and the use of reserves over the next 10 years. The model for fiscal year 25-26 assumes an increase in general fund revenues and a steady increase in expenditures based on the law enforcement contract as well as other inflationary type impacts. It also reflects the use of reserve funds for operational expenditures, which are related to a new financial software, audiovisual upgrade at the bell tower, some consulting agreements for emergency services, and a cost allocation plan as well as legal services, the third year of the unfunded liability paydown plan on CalPERS, some use of the SB 1383 grants, and some zoning code updates, as well as various CIP projects. The amount allocated towards CIP projects, as always, may be adjusted based on the discussion council has at that time. Also, based on this initial model, the general fund balance is expected to fluctuate between $27 and $28 million over the next 6 years, with growth resuming in fiscal year 31-32. And as always, this is just a snapshot in time, and projections may change depending on future budget constraints.
I'd also like to point out that if many of you have been through the budget development workshops over many, many years, and we have hovered around 100% of our operating budget for, I think, almost every year. So even though we have been utilizing general fund reserves for planned projects, and those are things that have been planned for and authorized by the city council over the years, we are still maintaining, even with the expenditure of over $3 million into the CIP this year, proposed $3 million, we are still maintaining a reserves level that is 100% of our general fund operating budget.
Thank you. And so the graph before you is the visual of what I had mentioned earlier. It shows the proposed revenues, expenditures, and the use of reserves for this year. The orange line represents the general fund balance, and you can see that it was higher in 23-24 and has gone down a little bit over time, but that's mostly due to the ability to use the American Rescue Plan grant funds for governmental services at that time. But it also does incorporates the significant growth in investment earnings that we had experienced. The graph shows the fund balance, again, trending down, but then flattening out over the next few years. The orange fund balance line stays within that 27 to 28 million mark over that 6-year span, and then you can see it starts to grow towards fiscal year 31-32. And as mentioned before, this may fluctuate over the next couple years just based on the use of reserves and how years change from year to year. Also, the city's fund balance is above the target balance, the yellow line, as reserves are strong and the city continues to be financially healthy. The target balance is based on the current approved reserve policy. So this is another way of looking at the reserve balance, and this is mainly focused on the general fund. And it reflects the various categories that have been established within that reserve policy and the requirements that it states. It starts with the estimated beginning balance, reflecting the change due to additional surplus and the use of reserves, which equates to the ending balance of fiscal year 25-26 by category. Based on the policy, the emergency category has been adjusted to 40% of the fund balance. The adjustment was then allocated to other categories based on their percentage of the total, and a second adjustment was then made to any category that was below the target balance. These adjustments were made to ensure continued stability throughout the reserve categories and the overall model. And below just lists all the various items that the city would be proposed to use general fund reserves for. So at this slide, this is a general overview and a comparison between the two budgets. So it compares the amended 24-25 budget to the proposed 25-26 budget. The city is experiencing an increase in revenues, mainly driven by growth in property tax and investment earnings. And it's also experiencing a little increase in expenditures due to the various reasons that will be discussed within the departments. But at the end of the day, the fiscal year 25-26 budget reflects a proposed structural surplus of $210,000. The proposed budget does project that these revenues will be 2.29% higher than the fiscal year 24 budget, and again, mostly due to property tax and investment earnings. However, there are increases and stable revenues throughout. Those are just two of the areas that we've seen the most growth in. We're expecting the most growth in over the next year. And then the expenditures do expect to increase by about 2.49%. And again, much of that has to do with the law enforcement contract and also just costs to meet city priorities, as well as due to expected pricing over the next year. So the following slides will give a little more detail about the city's revenues and the expectations thereof. So this chart represents the general funds broken into these following categories, and again, these will always these may fluctuate slightly as we come to adoption, as we learn more from today until that time. The sales tax revenue for fiscal year 25-26 is expected to show minimal growth compared to the budget estimates, as we've held it fairly flat, and it will be discussed in another slide. Property tax is showing a positive increase compared to the prior year. The estimate from HDL, which is a company we use for both property tax and sales tax projections and information, was an increase of 4.15%. And when you add the supplemental and other property tax types of revenue, such as penalties and so forth, and we did incorporate a potential delinquency, it was up to 5%. The property tax growth does include both the CPI increase of a full 2% and a portion of the Prop 8 adjustments restored. The franchise fees are expected to come in lower, as the franchise payment from the gas company for this current fiscal year came in much lower than expected. This reduction stems from the payment in fiscal year 23-24 year, that fiscal year, being significantly higher due to they experienced unprecedented high gas prices in 2023. The payment received and the estimate going forward is more in line with previous payments. Unfortunately, the city continues to see a decline in cable franchise revenue, and so at this time, that revenue just has been adjusted to what we believe year-end estimates will be. The budget for other revenues is lower compared to the current year, mainly due to fewer grant funding. Much of the projects covered with grant funding have been completed as of this year. In this category, there are slight increases in parking citation and court fine revenues also. The prior year grant funds included Cal OES, the second SB 1383 allocation, and the EECBG grant, the Energy Efficiency and Conservation Block Grant. That funding is projected for this fiscal year, but as I've mentioned before, due to the situations and circumstances within the federal government, we have not actually received that reimbursement yet, but there is still time. Under charges for services, they've been held basically flat, even though building permit revenues are still performing well. Staff has noticed that overall volume and valuations have been fairly consistent from year to year, and just to be conservative and cautious, we've left that revenue source flat at this time, but we are experiencing some growth in the BTRCC programs and rental income. And then under investment earnings, we are expecting it to come in higher compared to fiscal year 24-25 budget due to interest rates remain high. The projection for fiscal year 25-26 takes into account a potential slowly declining interest environment based on the anticipation that the Federal Reserve may begin to reduce interest rates over the coming year. Therefore, a very conservative estimate has been proposed for 25-26. However, these possible adjustments still remain to be seen, and there are various thoughts on what movement the rates take with the Federal Reserve. Will they initiate them or not? And then at the end, below the operational revenue, transfers are made up of funds from special revenues, gas tax, and Measure M, and those costs are associated with street maintenance. And there's been a slight increase in gas tax funds to cover the increase in the additional seasonal street sweeping. But overall, operational revenue is experiencing growth as property tax and sales tax still are the largest revenues for the city, and growth is expected to be approximately $471,000 compared to the fiscal year 24-25 budget. So the revenue graph is just a kind of a visual picture of what I had just mentioned before, and again, you can see between sales tax, property tax, and the property tax in lieu of VLF, it is quite a large piece of our overall revenue source. So just to focus and highlight on some of the general fund revenues, those especially in those two categories, property and sales tax account for 77% of the general fund. Sales tax is expected to represent about 35, which is actually comparable to prior years. Property tax is expected to increase 5%. Property tax, transfer tax is also up slightly by approximately $25,000, and then property tax in lieu, we expect a larger increase in that area of $319,000, both up 5%. We are expecting stable growth in the BTRCC program and facility rentals revenues, about $14,000 between the two. Budget estimates based on the revenue trends in building permit and planning fees, we've left them flat, fairly flat, as they are doing well, but just being cautious. And then you will see that the gas franchise revenue comparatively is down, but that has to do with that unprecedented higher rate in 2023. And then of course, a significant increase in investment earnings. We continue to do well in that line item and that revenue source. So just to speak on sales tax revenue, there have been lots of fluctuations with sales tax over the last few years. We've always that revenue has always performed well for the city. This is kind of the first time we've made some assumptions that it might come in a little below budget for 24-25, but there is a kind of a forecast that for 25-26 it will come back up to the levels that we originally believed 24-25 would be. So although it's flat, it's still it's still strong. And so in a lot of these changes are concerns pertaining to the tariffs, inflation, and then consumer spending habits. Consumers, they're still spending money, but they are more prudent and have a cautious mindset about what they may or may not buy. There have been changes over the last, it feels like a couple years now, regarding the countywide pools and the allocation thereof. But as of now, That area still remains a very strong portion category within all of our sales tax, and has basically stabilized and is just something we can count on from year to year. Another area that when they compare, HDL sends us quarterly reports, and they compare those quarters to the quarter of the year before, and we have seen that from the quarter to quarter that our sales tax after adjustments and so forth have been down. But some of that is also compared to very significant gains from the year before, especially as we were coming out of COVID and the pandemic, and people having a demand for things and pent up, kind of wanting to do stuff and get out and so forth. So even though I think things are stabilizing, and now we're going to see more of a normal growth from year to year.
Right, and the trajectory, if you looked at the kind of the median line, as it's still showing positive. So as Stephanie indicated, there were some really good years, probably about a good 18 to 24 months that were really good. So when you compare the current sales tax with a year prior, you might see a dip, but that doesn't mean that overall our sales tax is dipping. It just means that we had an extraordinary growth in one particular year or two particular years. I would say we just received an update from HDL, and statewide, March was up 2.5%. So in sales tax. So we're not seeing the indicators that would necessitate us taking it, ratcheting it down further than we have, but we have taken a very, very conservative look and estimate at our sales tax, and we feel good about this number.
Thank you. And just to kind of end with that, we do, based on the information we receive, we do expect steady growth in sales tax into the projected into the future years, and HDL is very has been a very good consultant and partner in ensuring that that missing payments or late payments or anything that is owed to us is they find it and they make sure we get it.
I would also add about HDL, they do not tell us what we want to hear. They tell us what they believe is the accurate number, and even sometimes if the news may not be as positive as we want, I feel that they are providing us with accurate data and not just telling us something so that we can, continue working with them. It's been a very good relationship, and they're a very strong company with a lot of integrity in their forecasting.
Absolutely. So
before we move on, are there questions at all about the revenues at this point? Do we want to pause for just a moment, or no?
Anybody? Councilmember Figueroa.
Thank you, Stephanie. In terms of, on page 9, we talked about property tax increases that we're expecting to see. And since we're not building new housing here in the city just because we don't have space for it, or is that the increases in the property tax primarily due to tax reassessments and then property improvements?
I would say it's a combination thereof. HDL expected an increase of the 4.15%, and that has to do with, it also incorporates the full 2% increase based on Prop 13. It probably also includes, as property values are obviously higher, people who had things reassessed in the past, Prop 8, where it brings those properties back up to where they should be. It takes into consideration those properties, which don't have to be 2%. They could be as high as 5 or various amounts. That's all decided by the assessor's office. And then people who are doing things to their homes and making improvements, there's certain items that trigger reassessments. I can't say for sure all of them that would do that, but with building permits being what they are, I'm sure some of that also has to do with improvements and just overall reassessment of homes. Not to mention, as people sell their homes, if it was a long-time owner and then they've sold it, their supplemental bills that they get would reflect that increase in the amount of property tax we would get because they were started at much lower overall from time to time, and now it's being reassessed. So I've incorporated amount for supplementals also
Okay,
into
perfect.
that.
Thank you, Stephanie.
Any other questions? Okay.
Okay, continue. So I'm gonna start talking about expenditures. I'm going to speak upon them on a very high level, and then as we go through all the departments, they'll speak more on a detailed level at that time. So the chart before you is either the individual department or a grouping of departments. All the departments were asked to review their budgets with the goal of keeping expenditures low, however, also with the goal to continue to provide excellent service and quality programs to the community. The overall expenditure budget grew by approximately $584,000, with the largest increase in police services. This contract reflects the final year of the 3-year salary and benefits contract. Therefore, they will be headed into negotiations with the county over the coming year. The budget also reflects an overall net decrease in public works due to lower MPDS permitting costs and one-time costs in the current year, such as the EV vehicle and some other, and the speed study offset, but these costs were offset by higher street sweeping and maintenance costs. There's also a decrease in community services due to the net effect of reductions in the community living magazine, the youth center, and some of that youth center expenditures reprogrammed as a placeholder in programs, and also variances, all various variances that will be addressed on the following slides. So this graph is just a visual of how the general fund expenditures are broken up by department. Animal services has been identified separately on this graph from police services, and then there's also an area for police services, which is then broken out between crossing guard and also the small piece the city contributes. The law enforcement contract reflects the total cost of the contract, including the portion covered by SLUSIT funds, which equates to 51.5% of the expenditures. Crossing guards is 1.7%, and the city police services are a low 1.3%. These costs relate to admin, fuel, citation processing, and other county charges. The other departments represent proposed expenditure budgets that reflect both increases and decreases throughout, depending on the project status, consulting contracts, pricing, and other goals and priorities. A notable expenditure that I don't think we've mentioned much in the past, but is the city's debt service payment, which is also separated on the pie chart. The debt service is in relation to the construction of City Hall and the Bell Tower Regional Community Center. Those certificates of participation were refinanced in 2012 and yielded a savings of approximately $102,000 a year. The city's debt obligation is very low compared to other cities, and as of 25-26, the city only has 8.5 years left on the bond. The payment is approximately $725,000 a year. And the interest rate, it's interesting, it changes from year to year, but it ranges from 4% to 2%. I think next year is 4%, and after that it starts to go into 2.5%, 2.75%, and 3%. So we're definitely on the downward trend of this loan debt service that we owe at this time. So I will cover a couple areas that relate to public safety, and then I will pass it over to our Chief of Police Services. So within public safety, their umbrella, there is animal services and crossing guard services. The total proposed expenditures for animal services with Mission Viejo is $520,000, which represents an increase of $48,000 or a 10% increase. The increases are attributed to personnel costs, including PERS, UAL costs, and so forth. Each year, Mission Viejo addresses personnel, equipment replacement, and capital outlay needs. For instance, last year they hired additional animal care technicians. And in fiscal year 25-26, the plan is for improvements to the shelter's surveillance system and to the sewer lift system that cleans the kennels. The estimate does assume a small true-up credit, which Mission Viejo has stated is likely based on their most recent estimates for the current fiscal year. And each year, Mission Viejo does a year-end reconciliation of actual costs, and the city has historically received a credit each fiscal year. Under crossing guard services, the amount included in the budget is the second of the 3-year crossing guard contract. The cost is approximately $403,000, and the contract provides services at 19 designated locations. And then for just a high-level view of the cost for law enforcement, the total cost for the proposed police services is $13.2 million, and that number includes any expenditures for both general fund and SLESIF. But the general fund portion is only, it's actually 6% because SLESIF is very small, but the general fund increase is about $691,000. The total law enforcement contract is $12,486,050, which equates to an increased cost of $632,943, or 5.34%. The cost of the general fund is $12.3 million, and the SLESIF is $159,000 that we use towards the contract. There's some additional costs we've proposed for SLESIF funds, which is special event overtime of $15,000, the purchase of 2 e-bikes at $15,000, and there's an e-citation support, the $1,000 that has to do with data ticket and how we use the handhelds for processing those tickets. And then also we already incorporated FLOC, the automated license plate reader lease, and we're proposing additional 10 cameras to that lease. And the total lease for next year we're estimating at $113,800. So before I pass this over to the chief, does anyone have any questions about
Council
that?
members, questions? Mayor Pro Tem?
Stephanie, real quickly, on the law enforcement contract, I see it's up 6%. What's the number that we're paying now? If the proposed contract's 13.2,
No, sorry. Let me be let me back up a little bit. The contract itself is the 12.486. The 13 million has to do with when you take what the city pays and how much SLESIF, and taking all of that into consideration, the full umbrella of police services. But the contract itself is $12.486 million.
that's the new contract.
That's the new contract,
What
yes.
is the old contract?
Okay, what is it?
Yes, I believe the 24-25 contract was $11,853,107.
Okay, so we're talking about 1.4 million. Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else?
Okay. With that, I will pass it over to our Chief of Police, Captain Dwayne Chappell.
Oh, thank you, Stephanie. Thank you, Stephanie.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Okay, let's start this. Okay, good evening, Mayor, members of the City Council and city staff. On behalf of the Sheriff's Department and Rancho Santa Margarita Police Services team, thank you again for giving us the opportunity to be your police services provider. Also present with me in the audience is OCSD Executive Director Brian Waite, and he will be here to answer questions related to the contract afterwards as well. In today's presentation, I'll be discussing the following items related to the law enforcement contract. We will be discussing the fiscal year 25-26 contract costs and current staffing, calls for service and response times, current crime trends and statistics for the past 3 years, steps we've taken in our e-bike safety initiative, our felony, misdemeanor, and warrant arrests, and some of the current and future operational plans for police services. So on this slide, you can see the 25-26 fiscal year police services budget has increased 5.34%, or $632,943. The budget increase is primarily due to negotiated MOUs approved by the Orange County Board of Supervisors. Also listed is our current staffing model. The staffing model is a cost for 33 and a third members, including myself. The third is the amount paid for an additional investigative assistant who's assigned to unincorporated South, but also handles RSM investigative cases. So in essence, it's cheaper to hire, it's cheaper than hiring an additional investigator. So we pay a third for someone else to help us out. The budget preserves our staffing, proactive policing, and national reputation for safety. The staffing includes patrol coverage, investigations, community outreach, and crime prevention. And the structure is formatted to keep crime low and community trust high. So with this staffing model, no staffing increase is requested. All right, on our next slide shows our calls for service and response times for the last 3 years, 24, 23, and 22. So just a quick breakdown of what we're looking at. A call for service is any request for police assistance or a response, whether it's initiated by the public or any officer in the field. So an assigned call refers to when incidents are dispatched directly to deputies by our dispatch center. These are typically calls where law enforcement presence is requested or required, ranging from emergencies to quality of life issues. And then our observed calls are self-initiated incidents. So these are where deputies witness and take action on an issue without a dispatch request. These can include proactive policing efforts that often prevent crimes before they escalate. So as we look at this chart, the growth in observed calls reflects more active policing. It reflects increased officer presence and an improved community vigilance. The trend highlights the success of proactive patrol strategies and data-driven deployment, which we use to enhance public safety. And with this rise in assigned calls, that shows that there's a demand placed on patrol resources, and it reinforces the need for efficient deployment, accurate time reporting, and thoughtful planning to continue to meet the needs and expectations of our community. Listed below shows our priority one response time. So I've listed this just so you can see exactly how we're responding to calls. A priority one is where a deputy responds code 3 with their lights and sirens on for an emergency, and that can be for a criminal or a non-criminal situation where there's information that reasonably indicates that the public's threatened with serious injury, bodily injury, or death. And so our national average across the board for most police agencies is listed at 5 minutes. In 2024, we were listed at 4 minutes and 38 seconds. So we were right under that national average, which shows that we're responding to P1s or priority ones quicker.
Well, it looks like the trend has been quite good, and despite the higher number of response demands, your response time has gone down, which is a great record. That don't be shy about sharing. The residents benefit from that, and we appreciate that.
I appreciate that, sir. And that message has been passed along from the top down. You know, the sheriff, our commanders, our assistant sheriffs, we're really, really cognizant of our response times. We want to get to people quickly and as quickly as possible, but we also want to do that safely. We can't get there if we hurt ourselves. So we have to balance that pretty quickly and use our best judgment. But so far, so good. I mean, the time's looking pretty accurate, and I'm happy with the results.
Yeah, great job.
Yeah. Continuing with calls for service. So in 2022, we saw a huge spike in total calls for service, or what I would like to call the post-pandemic rebound. RSM returned to normal activity levels after COVID-19 restrictions. Public spaces became busier, increasing the likelihood of incidents and calls. The upward trend in 2023 and 2024 could be a reflection of a combination of factors, including population and foot traffic increase, a rise of quality of life concerns, such as e-bike violations and traffic complaints and disturbances, but it also underscores the success of a proactive, data-driven policing strategy that encourages residents to report concerns earlier before they escalate into emergencies. I believe these upward trends reflect the community that actively reports and that are engaged. So rather than indicating that more crime is occurring, the rise could signal a safer, more engaged community where residents feel confident turning to their local deputies for help. And I'm happy for that. Our current crime trends. So we have property thefts and commercial thefts. We average about 4 to 8 of these per month. Graffitis continue to be an ongoing issue. Fraud and cyber crimes are also an issue, and these are typically crimes that target our elderly population. We're starting to see a rise in that, and traffic violations. So we continue enforcement focus on safety and education. So our response to many of these crimes have been increased patrol visibility in commercial zones, the use of flock license plate readers, proactive enforcement and operations, and a collaboration with businesses to improve reporting and crime prevention strategies. So as crime trends increase, we're doing our very best to keep those crime statistics down as much as possible. Okay, so on this slide shows a little bit more of a historical crime stat, and this is for the years 2022, 23, 24, and 25 up until April of this year. So over the past 3 years, RSM has seen shifts in key crime categories. While some areas experience increases, our data-driven, community-focused policing strategies have played a crucial role in curbing trends, strengthening safety, and enhancing public trust. So our assault offenses, they increased from 99 in 2022 to 160 in 2024. And we address this through expanded high visibility patrols, conflict de-escalating training, and deeper community engagement to prevent violence before it occurs. Our thefts, they were on a slight downward trend, 191 to 170. And we focused retail patrols, public education, and surveillance support, which help reduce these offenses, especially during the seasonal shifts. Our motor vehicle thefts, you can see they spiked. So there was a significant rise from 44 to 44 in 2024, and that was up from 11 in 2023, and I can explain. So the surge is partly attributed to the increase in e-bike thefts, and so we categorize e-bikes as a motor vehicle theft. So it wasn't like your Toyota Corollas and your minivans were getting stolen. A lot of them were just e-bikes. Burglaries and breaking and entering offenses. So that was stable across the last 3 years. It was between 30 and 34. We've continued our regular and residential patrols. Our vacation check program is still in effect, and increased community reporting have helped maintain control in this category. Some of the more violent offenses like robbery, arson, and sex offenses, they remain consistently low in this city, with fewer than 10 incidents per year in each category. On to some of our traffic statistics. So we've experienced a pretty significant number of injury traffic accidents in 2024, with 77 injury traffic accidents. The highest that we've had in the last 3 years was pretty much that number. And then in 2022, we had 83 non-injury traffic accidents. I dug through most of these statistics pretty much in depth, and speed was pretty much the highest contributing factor in all of these accidents. Unsafe lane change was probably the second highest contributing factor. So we are still implementing our enforcement protocol program. So we have our motors out, we have our deputies providing traffic enforcement, and we also utilize our traffic trailers, our radar trailers, to gain valuable information to determine where we can deploy our resources. So a lot of our enforcement is data-driven. Also below, you will see our parking citations. So we pretty much average over 1,800 within the last 3 years of parking citations. Last year, we had 1,942 parking sites, and this produces revenue of about $100,000 per year on average back to the city. On to specific e-bike statistics. So this is just for the years 2024 and 2023. So e-bike related incidents have become a significant focus in Rancho Santa Margarita, and influencing crime trends and driving enforcement efforts. With the rising popularity of e-bikes among youths and commuters, These vehicles have introduced new challenges in both safety and crime prevention. So by integrating e-bike incidents into a broader policing strategy, we're addressing not only theft prevention, but we're also addressing roadway safety, juvenile outreach, and traffic enforcement, helping to keep the community safe while adapting to the evolving mobility trends. You've seen in the, so this is a combination of the last 2 years between the combination of 2023 and 2024, our deputies have written 122 e-bike citations. There have been 18 e-bike related traffic accidents, 292 e-bike deputy contacts, and 439 e-bike CAD related entries. And the CAD related entry could be a combination of anything. If a deputy makes contact, if an e-bike was stolen, if a deputy makes contact with a 13-year-old on an e-bike and he just wants to engage with them and provide educational materials, all of that would be included in the CAD entry. So 439 of that total. Continuing with our e-bike safety initiative, so e-bike related activities increase in our city from thefts and traffic violations to injury accidents. So in response, RSM Police Services launched a comprehensive e-bike safety initiative built on education, engagement, and enforcement, or the 3 E's as we like to call it. And so we've hosted safety events, participated in school-based programs, and issued over 120 e-bike related citations to enforce helmet use, proper operation, and roadway awareness. These efforts are already showing results, improving behavior and reducing risks on the road. Looking ahead to 2025, we're expanding these efforts further because youth safety is optional. And preventing accidents today protects families tomorrow. And this is very, very important to me. I'm also a parent, and I have children of age that can ride bikes. So I've seen terrible accidents in person. I've seen the tragedy it causes these families. I know a lot of what we can do is minimalized by the legislature, but we do what we can. I think the city provided a really robust e-bike municipal code, so we do have the tools in place to provide enforcement, but we would do continue with that 3-prong approach with education, engagement, and enforcement. So hopefully we can keep these roadways safe. By this summer, RSM Police Services will deploy potentially 3 e-bikes as part of our community safety strategy. So these e-bikes will serve as a visible and approachable platform to engage with youth and other riders in bike safety and responsible riding habits. Now, this initiative strengthens, again, that 3-prong approach. And so by putting deputies where they're needed most, in places where riders frequent most, we can hopefully keep our roadways safer. We can also use these e-bikes to utilize them for targeted enforcement operations, allowing for increased mobility on trails, parks, and high traffic pedestrian areas. I was on the e-bike patrol team in Dana Point. It was very, very effective. Not only do you get that engagement from a lot of our younger generation, but it is also a very useful tool when you are providing enforcement in other areas, because some criminals don't expect you to ride up on them on a bicycle. So it's a very useful tool. On to our arrests. So our arrest trends from 2022 to 2024, over the past 3 years, arrest activity in RSM has shown a steady year-over-year increase, reflecting the results of consistent enforcement and community engagement. Our total arrests increased each year, reaching the highest point in 2024. Misdemeanor arrests remain the largest portion of all bookings, suggesting a strong response to quality of life issues and proactive patrol. Our warrant arrests also rose, driven by targeted efforts to address outstanding offenders and maintain accountability, and our felony arrests have remained steady, reflecting a focused and deliberate approach to addressing serious crime in the community. So on to our community service unit. So I've transitioned part of our plan with our current deputy setup is 2 of those deputies are part of what we call the special enforcement team, and I've transitioned them to what we now call the community service unit. And so the purpose of that is to build and reflect our mission of proactive policing and a community partnership. So rather than just focusing on enforcement only, I would rather have a more community-oriented community policing approach because I think that's effective. So CSU is going to be comprised of 3 deputies, including our SRO, 1 crime prevention specialist, and that will be the CSU team. Their responsibilities will be to address recurring community issues that extend beyond day-to-day patrol responsibilities. So a lot of quality of life issues, when we get a call for service, we can try to handle it and fix it as quickly as we can, but sometimes those problems keep recurring. And that puts a burden on a lot of our police resources to just keep coming back and putting a Band-Aid on this, which is not the proper approach. So our CSU team will be responsible for solving problems permanently, or at least having a longer lasting effect on some of these issues. They'll also be involved in engagement. They'll lead neighborhood and business watch programs. They'll host community meetings, and they'll strengthen resident relationships. They'll also continue to do their proactive enforcement and conduct focused operations targeting crime hotspots and chronic offenders. Overall, the goal of CSU is to build stronger neighborhood partnerships and become more engaged with the residents to support that community policing aspect that I love. They'll also be there to support investigations, and all of this, again, will be done with no additional cost. So we're just repurposing our current resources. The crime prevention specialist. So I put this slide on here because some cities, they know what a crime prevention specialist does, or some kind of know what they do, but this is a general explanation of what a CPS does and how they will be effective as part of our operational plan. So a crime prevention specialist serves as the bridge between law enforcement and the community, focusing on education, outreach, and proactive strategies to reduce crime before it occurs. Some of their responsibilities include community engagement, like they'll lead the neighborhood watch and the business watch programs, the crime trends analysis, so they'll serve as our in-house analysis for crime. That way we can have data pulled directly by the CPS, and they'll provide it to the deputies, and we can use that information to go out there and enforce more effectively. They'll provide public education, providing presentations on burglary prevention, fraud, personal safety, and additional additional categories. And they'll also be the liaison role. So they'll connect police services with the residents, the HOAs, and businesses, as well as the community groups. They'll also serve to support patrol operations by promoting long-term solutions to recurring issues. So in essence, the purpose of the crime prevention specialist will be to enhance public safety through prevention awareness and partnership, reducing crime and building trust within the community. This position will be filled next Friday on May 16th. On to our LPR cameras, or flock cameras. So currently we have 16 flock cameras in the city. They're strategically placed throughout the city of RSM. They're used to identify and locate vehicles tied to criminal activity. They assist with investigations, real-time alerts, and crime deterrence. Our future plan is to add 10 more cameras, expanding to a total of 26. And this will increase the citywide coverage and enhance response capabilities. This also supports proactive policing and regional crime tracking. So we intend to enhance safety through technology, expanding our real-time intelligence network and aiding in faster case resolution. Through the use of technology, our streets are getting smarter and safer. Here's just 2 of our flock success stories, and we have success stories almost monthly, and this is the success we've seen just using this technology. So in January of this year, there was a commercial burglary at a business in the city where over $200,000 of stolen hair extensions were taken from the property. Flock was used as an investigative tool to locate the suspects who were arrested a few weeks later. Almost all of that stolen property was returned back to the owners. And in February of last year, there was a residential burglary, I believe it was in Robinson Ranch, where several $1,000s worth of jewelry was stolen. Flock was used to identify the suspect vehicle, where it was traced back to the city of Los Angeles. The investigation revealed occupants driving the vehicle were involved in several other residential burglaries throughout the county, and those suspects were arrested the following month for several counts of burglary, including the one from RSM. So These cameras have proven to be highly effective and a highly effective investigative tool in RSM in both commercial and residential burglary cases. And flock technology enabled deputies to quickly identify suspect vehicles, track criminal activity across jurisdictions, and ultimately lead to multiple arrests and property recovered. These outcomes demonstrate how technology-driven policing enhances case closure rates, supports regional investigations, and it delivers real results in our community. Yes, sir.
The flock cameras that we already have, my recollection is they're placed primarily, if not exclusively, on the main streets in and out of Rancho Santa Margarita. Can you describe generally where you intend to locate these 10 new cameras? Are they also going to be on those kind of principal streets, or are they going different areas of the city?
Yes, I can answer that question. So when I first arrived to the city in March, I realized that there were several inlets and outlets to the city where a criminal could pass right by a flock camera undetected. So the goal was to repurpose some of the existing cameras that we already have so we can relocate them and then place additional cameras in areas so that if there was any criminal activity, it would be almost impossible to either enter or leave the city without us tracking that license plate. I cannot give you the current locations, but they'll be placed strategically and they'll be on public roadways.
Okay.
And if I can add to that really quickly, when we initially brought the flock cameras, it was a little untested at the time for Rancho Santa Margarita, and we took a conservative approach, kind of a phase one, and with a number that we felt would be effective, but we didn't blanket the city at that time, and we knew that there would be in the future the possibility, if it were successful, which it has been, to add cameras, and that's what we're proposing in this year's budget.
Thank you.
I will say this city is very proactive compared to some other neighboring cities. They have lots of challenges. The support that police services gets from the city as far as committing to new technology and believing in the process is unparalleled. So we're doing really well compared to some others.
Good to hear. Thank you.
On to our NICE program. So this is a program that I started about a month ago. This is where we intend to bring all of the department heads within the city under one umbrella and just work together. So this was implemented as a cross-departmental initiative that enhances how the city and all of the department heads, how we identify and how we address local issues. So we meet once a month, and what we do is we just sit down and talk about problems or issues within our prospective divisions, and we determine if any one of us in the other division can help out. And what we've determined is the teamwork builds a stronger community, because sometimes community development or public works, they might have an issue that they continue to have, but maybe police services can lend a hand and resolve that. So pretty much we're just working on having a closer relationship with all of the departments. So this is called the Neighborhood Initiative to Coordinate Effectively, or the NICE program. And again, the purpose is to improve how we communicate and resolve problems amongst each other as a team. Again, we've had some success in this. It just started about a month or so ago. One of our real world examples is how we're now addressing the street vendor issue. And so using the NICE framework, the city departments, including police services, admin, community services, development services, and public works, we partnered with the OC Healthcare Agency to address unpermitted street vending concerns. This coordinated effort ensured, number one, consistent messaging to vendors, proper routing to health and code enforcement partners, and a respectful but firm approach to compliance. So in essence, the result was a faster, more unified response that maintained public safety while upholding community standards. So on to some of our achievements. So everyone here knows the city of RSM. We are the safest city in California, right? And this is, I believe, identified as the safest city the second consecutive year in a row. We've been identified as number 15 and the safest city in all of the United States. And our Neighborhood Scout National Report states that RSM's violent crime rate is well below the national average. Violent crimes like assaults, rape, robbery, and murder occur far less often here than in most U.S. cities. Your chance of becoming a victim of violent crime in RSM is just 1 in 2,099, which is a violent crime rate of 0 per 1,000 residents. So these results are not accidental. They reflect a deliberate and sustained investment in public safety, strategic enforcement, and a strong community partnership. This is just a ranking of the top 10 if anyone wants to see who else is on the list. But again, the city of RSM, here we are, number 1. And we hope to continue that ranking for the years to come. All right, some of our key priorities. So what we're going to be focusing on, which I see as our consistent problems, again, they're graffiti and vandalism, our traffic safety expansion. We're also going to increase our positive public contact. So that's just when our staff goes out and talks to the community. Everything that we do doesn't have to be enforcement related. My approach is that we become a fabric of this community rather than just the people that you call when you need help. We want to be considered a resident as well. And so that's our goal, the community policing model. So the mission, again, is to deliver real results, not by asking for more, but by using what we have more effectively. Through focused enforcement, strategic partnerships, and visible community engagement, we're committed to keeping RSM one of the safest cities in America. My wife asked me the other night why I thought RSM was the safest city, because we go back and forth on why we think that is. And this is what I told her, so I had to add it in the slide. But I truly believe RSM didn't become the safest city by accident. It's the result of intentional leadership, strategic policing, and a deep partnership with the community. And again, with your continued support, we're not just maintaining public safety, we're setting the standard for it. This is the end of my presentation. Thank you for your trust. Thank you for your partnership and your commitment to the safety of the city.
Great report, Chief.
Open it up
Thank
for
you
questions.
that.
Thank you.
Appreciate that. Council members, any questions for police services?
Mr. Mayor?
We'll start with
Thank you.
Councilmember Holloway.
First of all, thank you for what you do. I'm very supportive of the increase in the police budget this year. Anybody that is willing to risk their lives to save ours deserve the salary and benefits that you get. So I will always be supportive of that, and I think it's a very reasonable increase. You know, talking about the safest city, you had the two stats up there, one from SafeWise and one from the Uniform Crime Report. I think I'm more impressed by the, was it 15th or 16th most safest, because I know the UCR. I'm not so sure. I'm not so well versed on SafeWise, but that's a stat. I mean, all of it is, but that's a tremendous number. But and thank you for that. A couple questions. If you go back to the police budget and staffing, I think it was maybe your second. It's kind of my standard questions every year. Okay, so all fairly self-explanatory. Do we currently have 21 deputies, or do we have any vacant positions?
We currently have one position. So we have 3 deputies that are on training. They will fill those vacancies. We have one position that we use as our flexible enforcement position.
Okay, so it's not, we're not sure, they're not sure. There were days back in the day where they just couldn't fill positions for all the reasons why you can't fill them. But all the positions are filled, they're just doing different things.
That's correct.
Thank you. The in terms of the investigative assistance, I'm always interested in crime rates, clearly, and clearly that we're in a great place there. Also interested in clearance rates. You know, the crime or the reports that you do take, that what the clearance rate is for are those crimes solved. It's a tougher number to get to. I don't know if you have that off the top of your head. Probably not.
No, I don't, but I can provide that information at a later date.
Is it fair to say that if the clearance rate wasn't where the sheriff's department wanted it to be, there might be a request for more investigators to help get that number, if there is a set number, a target number from the sheriff's department for clearance rate.
Well, clearance rate has, as you know, they have lots of different factors to that, right? So some of them are district attorney rejects, return for further investigations. So I'd reach out to my investigative detail and see exactly where our clearance rate is, but I don't believe we have an issue with that. Typically, we don't carry open cases, and we close the cases that we can no longer investigate, and we clear the ones that we can.
Clearly, and I just, the only reason I bring that up is if the clearance rate needs help, if you will, by more individuals, I'm sure that would be something that this council would entertain. It's not, and when was the last time there was a police staffing increase request?
The last increase that we had was the crime prevention specialist position.
Okay.
And that was, I think, 2 budgets ago.
As far as sworn, it's been, I don't remember.
Years.
Years, yeah, okay.
I think the last one, actually, I want to say the last one was the child safety deputy, the school resource officer, and I believe that was in 2012.
Oh, okay, 2012. Thank you. What's a real interesting statistic is that we have increased calls for service. I know you explained that some of those are base resident calls, and then the ones that the officers or deputies see themselves. And that increase in calls for service, and you explained it very well. I think that's they see something, say something effect, which is something that people in the city hear a lot. So there's that. But you have an interesting stat in that you have a substantial increase in calls for service. Year to year was 78% more this year than 23, or 24 than 23. But the crime rate is very low, which is interesting. And it kind of shows up in some of the stats you have. I mean, the number of warrant arrests are, it's unfortunate that there are people with warrants that need to be arrested here, but the fact that your deputies are making that many contacts, because a lot of them have to be contacts they're making, that's not based on a call for service. So that tells me that the deputies that are out there are working very hard, and that's very impressive. The calls for service number, that's a tough one year to year to know. That I'm sure at every city I assume it's increasing if everybody is being diligent on, see something, say something. Is that your sense of, like you explained that, but you go that a little bit more, talk a little bit more about that?
Yes, I think in a city like RSM, and I've worked several different cities, and you can kind of get an idea, you can get a feel of the residents. So there are some communities that feel as if maybe I shouldn't call because it's not that important, or I don't want to bother the sheriff's department. They have their own gauge on what they think is important or not. And I think this city is really engaged. I think they understand. We encourage people to call, and we want every city to be the same way. But I believe in this city, we encourage people to call us for everything. We're a contract city. We will respond to every single call. There's not one call that we will not respond to. So I believe, especially in the city, we don't have that issue where people they feel reluctant to call the sheriff's department because they know they're going to get a response.
Thank you. I think another subject, the response time is less than it was, which is outstanding, but yet the calls for service are 78% higher than last year. I think I know why that happens, but could you explain that to the public, how that could possibly be? You kind of talked about it in reference to is priority 1, and there aren't as many, code 3 calls for service. Could you expand on that a little bit?
Yeah, so we do get priority 1 calls. A lot of them are traffic-related calls, right? So anytime someone calls and say, "Hey, I was in a traffic accident," we don't know what the injury status is. So typically, we're going to respond to those calls, absent any other information, as a P1, lights and sirens, right? We do get some other calls, probably not as many crimes in progress calls as some other cities. So that could help with the statistics. But that's a true testament to our leadership, our supervisors. they keep our deputies informed on, hey, we're not going to waste any time getting to these calls. There's no time to waste. Every call we need to respond to immediately. There's no time to waste. So the message has just been passed down to our staff, and they know that there's no excuse to waste time to respond to anything.
Thank you. Another question for you about flock cameras. Obviously, a productive investment on our part, and as it ties in with the real-time center, are you seeing much interaction with our commercial business owners and property managers in understanding the value of tying into the real-time center and cameras?
No, not yet. And that's the purpose of our crime prevention specialists. So with our Business Watch program, that's going to be the message. We're going to be going out. We'll be in person, reaching out to all of our businesses, small businesses, large commercial businesses, and explaining the benefits of the real-time operations center, some of the cameras that can be integrated to help deter crime and to catch criminals. So currently, I think the message hasn't been disseminated effectively, but our goal with our new staffing model is to make sure that message gets out.
Thank you.
If I could add to that, just over the last year, one of the focus was on the HOAs and getting the HOAs, and more so than the businesses. Not that they weren't approached, but the focus really was, let's start with the HOAs. They have they have residents, especially some of the areas where they had experienced residential burglaries. And there was some resistance there. And so I don't know if it was a cost issue or they just didn't understand it, but I know that it's not necessarily that there hasn't been an effort made. I think, though, that there is an opportunity to improve that messaging going forward and really try to get at least, once you get a couple that will sign on and understand the value, the others will follow after that. But there's been a little bit of resistance, at least among the HOAs, to utilize the flock type system and tie into the RTIC.
Thank you. I'm really supportive of the real-time center, the sheriff's. It is next level technology like I've never seen for law enforcement, and we're leading the country, really. The Sheriff Barnes is leading that, and everybody else that's doing that, Brian. But I mean, it's mind-boggling, and it's certainly something that everybody could, Google and go online and see what it's about. It's next level policing, and hopefully our commercial business component will, and the HOAs feel the need, because if we want to stay with the safest community, we're going to need their help. It's not that expensive. I hope they kind of realize the importance of it.
I would also say I've had the opportunity to be to the RTOC, have a tour of that, and been there, and it's an amazing facility. And I'll say, I think, to go back to a question that you had, I think one of the reasons of why we haven't had to increase staffing is because there's this utilization of new technology that will not take the place of, but enhance the way that the current complement of officers are able to do their job. Whereas if we didn't have this technology, who knows? I don't know if we would be looking at additional officers, but the technology has really made a difference in the police work, and it's not cheap, but it's very effective, and I think dollar for dollar, it's definitely a worthy investment, and the Sheriff's Department should be applauded for their work in developing that.
It's really the real-time center is very uncommon in police work, because you have a component that can prevent crime and catch bad guys. And that's a hard combination. You might not think it is, but it does both at the same time, which it's up until this technology, it's very difficult. I mean, quite honestly, a police officer can go their entire career and maybe not see a crime in progress. It's just hard to catch crimes as they occur. That's why the technology part of it is so important. My last question is always with Brian too. Does the Sheriff's Department have a written minimum staffing for deputies policy. To those that haven't been here, that's my standard question. Always interested to hear what the latest is. And the reason I ask it is, will we be tasked at some point in the near future that you need to increase your sworn by five or six deputies, which, that kind of reasoning. I'm not trying to get into department policy or procedure, but the money part of it.
Good afternoon, Mayor, members of the council. Brian Waite, Sheriff's Department, and proud Rancho Santa Margarita resident. As we've discussed before, we don't have a written policy on it. We do have a model that we have used. It's based off of the International City Managers model that was developed a number of years ago. And so we do update that periodically for all of our contract partners. And I know we've shared that with the city managers as well. It really, as you know, it's an art and a science, right? There's calls for service and response times and everything that the captain has talked about, but then there's also other factors. Training, time off, all those different things, vacation time, those types of things, those factors in. So we constantly refine that. We look at it, and if there's a city that's way out of whack, we'll definitely approach them and be like, hey, we need to up the staffing model. And usually that I guess the component of that also supports it usually is the fact crime's going up or constituents are complaining about issues or whatever, and we're just not able to get to it because we don't have the resources available. And we are dealing with that in a couple of cities as we speak, but they're in the process of adding deputy sheriffs and support that goes along with that. So it'll be, you'll have people here probably complaining about issues and public safety before we're here knocking at the door saying, hey, council, we really think you need to add a number of staff. So and Rancho's always been a great city to work with and has a good complement of staff. So
is it reasonable for me to think that Incorporated and the cities that border us that contract with the Sheriff's Department don't have a lower number of staff because of your mutual aid situation where they may take deputies away from us that would cause us an issue?
We used to have a situation like that when Laguna Woods incorporated. There was some cost-sharing development that was done with Laguna Woods, specifically just because of the size, the small nature of that city and the resources. But it got to a point where it became an issue, and so we've rectified that with them. But the flip side to that, and the perfect example is like the investigative assistant, right? As Rancho's being a border city to unincorporated, right? We can take advantage of, the unincorporated side of things where the county's responsible for police services out there, and we can share resources, right? And this is, as the captain mentioned, right? Investigative assistant, you're sharing that with unincorporated, right? So we get a benefit as unincorporated side, you guys get a benefit as a city side, and at the end of the day, we all win.
Thank you for the annual visit and answering my.
I always look forward to it.
Thank you so much for what you do.
Appreciate it.
To my right, Councilmember Bear.
Thank you for your report. I do have a couple of questions about the e-bikes. And let me go to it. And the statistics. So you said these statistics were from 2023 and 2024, and the e-bike citations are from that year? Those
That
years?
is correct.
Okay, and so please correct me if I'm wrong here, but some city council passed a law, an ordinance in late 2024, like October, September 2024, about e-bikes. Is that correct? Was that okay? So, how many of these citations are from that ordinance specifically, or has what I guess I'm asking is one of the things you mentioned is that we've given you this tool with this ordinance. How has that impacted these numbers, if it has?
Well, I haven't pulled out the municipal code violations from these e-bike citations, but if you can see on the graph, and I apologize for the small font, but the majority of the citations that were written were for someone not having a helmet on. and I believe we were using the California Vehicle Code violation for a majority of those helmet violations. I would have to go back and do a deeper dive into our statistics to figure out which ones were related or attributed to the municipal code violation.
Okay, could you talk then maybe a little bit about how you see that ordinance specifically helping our city? Because this e-bikes seem to be one of the main complaints I hear about is the concern about the kids getting in accidents or hitting a motorist, et cetera. So how can you utilize the ordinance we have to address that?
Mayor, if I may. The ordinance predates the police chief, so if I might be able to help a little bit here. There are a lot of features in our ordinance that were derived from state law, so the police department does have the option to write violations under standard vehicle code provisions, or they can write it under the city's ordinance. When you write it under the city's ordinance, the council intentionally wrote it so that it wouldn't be as punitive under state law. The focus of the ordinance is education and outreach through administrative citations that can be waived in the event they go to e-bike training. So a lot of what's in the code, while it may be a violation of state law, if it gets written as an admin site, it's designed to push the juvenile offender into a diversion class and work on education, and oftentimes with the parents. So it's another tool in the police officer's tool belt, if that analogy works. It gives them options, but again, it is the focus of the Rancho Santa Margarita City Council to ensure that we are not punitive. We don't send them into the court system where the court imposes fines as well as the city collects fines. It's to push them into a diversion class and provide proper education.
And also to include the parents. I believe you said
Yes.
that it also includes the
It
parents.
encourages parental involvement
education.
through the diversion and education process when the offender is a juvenile.
Okay.
Does that help?
Yes, it does.
If-
Thank
If I
you.
might just add real quickly, Mr. Mayor, is that okay? The statute or the ordinance as written also, to a great extent, mirrored what was already established through the County of Orange, not just through the California Vehicle Code, but the County of Orange. And so, as the city attorney just indicated, it was designed to mirror, to a great extent, what was already law, to emphasize aspects, and most likely the helmet usage for adults driving or riding a higher level e-bike than the others, mandating it for juveniles, and in the most egregious circumstances, giving the opportunity for the sheriff's department to confiscate for a short time an e-bike, which would only be released upon the parent coming in and recognizing that their child is not riding it correctly, signing off, and then mandating that the child and the parent go to an e-bike safety class. So it was really designed, as the city attorney indicated, to educate not just the children, the juvenile rider, but the parents as well. So otherwise, all the other minutia was to a great extent mirroring California Vehicle Code mandates and the Orange County Code as well.
Thank you.
Councilmember Figueroa.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. Well, I also have a question regarding the flock cameras. This is one of the newer things public safety items we've implemented in our city. I know we're still learning about it and we still have questions. So, Chief, I was wondering, do you know how often our deputies rely or use the flock system in their work on a daily basis? Is it weekly? Is it daily? Do you have any information on that?
I have that information every single day.
Oh, every single
It is
day?
an
Wow.
investigative tool. The things that we can do with the flock cameras, I know there was some fear when this new technology came about in many cities. People thought that the government was going to be too intrusive on the citizens' rights of privacy, and the flock camera is not utilized in that manner. Okay, so flock cameras, they're license plate readers. We can use that to track individuals that we believe are suspected of crimes. The technology is so efficient that even if we don't have a license plate, we can just put in a make, model, and color of a vehicle that may have left the scene of a crime, and we can get more information and determine if that vehicle is related to the crime at a later date. So just tracking the type of car is also a part of the tool. So these deputies, when they start their shift, they will log on typically to Flock, and they get alerts to their MDC and to their computer of any stolen vehicles, any vehicles of interest, any vehicles that another deputy put inside the system that says, hey, be on the lookout for this car, it's suspicious. They use it as a tool every day as part of their shift.
That's absolutely amazing. I love that. I never would have expected daily on that. So I'm loving that we're putting 10 more in. So that's going to be another great asset for us. And to Chief and to all your deputies, I just want to congratulate everybody on lowering the response times. Absolutely amazing, especially when calls have gone up. Crime stats are down, amazing too. And I love your focus too on the neighborhood programs. So I think that's going to be just a wonderful asset too for our city, and I just love that idea. So good job. Thank you.
Thank you. It's great to be the ranked #1 safest city, but I always tell people that doesn't mean we're crime-free. And I'm just curious, Chief, have you observed any sort of trends that we might need to be aware of to keep an eye on, so that we're aware, that might necessitate increased focus from police services in the coming year? You know, gang activity, drugs, homeless encounters, mental health stuff. Is there anything that you're seeing more often, even in this very safe community?
It's the eyesore of graffiti. A lot of these acts of vandalism, typically committed by our teenage population. It's the thorn in my side because it's the crime that stays visible until we remove it. So that's typically, in my opinion, that's the consistent problem that we're having, because you won't catch anyone committing acts of vandalism like graffiti. It just won't happen, right? It's so quick. It'll take an accident or an act of God for us to actually walk up on someone while they're spray painting something. It just doesn't happen. But then it stays there visible, and it just shows the defacement is just, it's the thorn in my side. I don't like it.
I think we have mechanisms to get rid of it pretty quickly, a graffiti hotline and things like that. Are these like taggers? There's no way to catch these people and hold them accountable so that maybe you send a message to stop?
So as of yesterday, one of our frequent taggers that have, they've put a stain on this city, we caught them. It was 2 juveniles. And they will be going through the court process, but I'm very, very happy of my team, the deputies, the investigator, and more specifically, our investigative assistant. They put together a great case. They went and talked to the parents, and that person will hopefully go through the court process, and they will get the discipline that they deserve.
Great. I hope that's what happens. I hope they learn their lesson and stop. It's great to be the safest city, but it's always important that we prepare for the unexpected. And I'm just curious in the coming year whether we have any sort of proactive exercises planned. I think we've done some things in the past, for example, to maybe multi-agency or coordinate with schools, active shooter drills for terrorism, even at City Hall, things like that. Is there anything that you're planning in this upcoming fiscal budget year along those lines, or emergency response? We just went through a terrible fire season. Can you share any ideas about that?
2, I do plan on coordinating an active shooter drill at one of the schools. Especially, it'll be helpful for me. I'm new to the city, and I have experience doing this in other cities, but I'd like to have more information on how we can respond as far as me being the chief, and how I can coordinate my resources so that there is a plan to have some active shooter drills at our schools. And again, we will be planning some emergency preparedness drills as well in partnership with OCFA.
So you mentioned that would be like at one school. Do other schools get invited that they could learn something, or would we be trying to take that show on the road and take it to other schools as well?
Yeah, typically we would designate one school. Other schools are invited to attend. Obviously, in a safe zone, they can see what's going on. But typically, we would do this at one school. Usually, our bigger schools, like our high schools. But I am open to branching out and providing that training at any of our schools in the city.
Thank you, Chief. Councilmember Holloway.
Thank you. To that point, it's a great point about drills. Last year, I was lucky enough to watch an active shooter drill that the Sheriff's Department put on at Santa Margarita Catholic High School. The superintendent of Orange County Schools was there, and there were other principals that had been invited. And this was an all-day exercise, so it was great that they chose this location, our location, to practice, so that if the worst thing happens and it's a real situation, they've been there. But to your point, they did invite other principals, and there were quite a few there that watched that, even though it wasn't their particular school or plant. So, the Sheriff's Department was very proactive with that, and it was something to see. To watch the operations of that and how many different personnel they ran through different situations. They clearly know what they're doing. And one last thing about the e-bikes. When you had those stats again, because what was it, about, 3-4 years ago, we really started to offer our support to the sheriffs about the e-bikes, or maybe it was longer. However long ago it was that we, as a council, voiced our support to increase enforcement. Quite honestly, I'm surprised pleasantly at the numbers here. So when you say 439 e-bike CAT entries, does that mean there were calls from residents, 439 calls?
That's a combination, so it can be calls and self-initiated.
And out of those 200, over half of that, there was actually a contact. I was wondering how hard it was going to be, and I know how hard it would be to try to chase a 12-year-old or 14-year-old on an e-bike, and the risk there. We've talked about that as a council. We know that that's a tough one. The fact that there have been, it's not going to sound great. I love the fact there's been 122 sites, because chances are whoever got those sites won't do that again. Not that it's going to put someone, in a lifelong spiral. It's a ticket, and it's probably going to save somebody's from getting injured or killed. So I like that number. I don't like the 18, but that's not your fault. That happens, the 18 accident number. But I'm pleasantly surprised that there's been that many contacts. That's a lot for how hard it is to talk to those. I shouldn't say kids. Maybe there's 30-year-olds that are on e-bikes too. I don't know. But I would think, is it safe to say the bulk of them are under 21 of these contacts?
That's correct, sir.
That's safe. Okay. Thank you.
Anything else for police services? All right. Brian, thank you for being here once again. Chief, great presentation. I see it's 5:30. I think you may have mentioned that you might want to take a break around this time.
We might want to take a break at this time because we're going to get into heavy department and CIP, and otherwise it would break that up.
So it's about 5:33. How long do you want to take?
Anywhere between 30 and 45 minutes. It's up to you.
Okay. We'll get everybody back around 6 o'clock, 6:10, somewhere around
6:10,
there.
6:10.
We'll round everyone up.
Okay. Sounds good.
All right. The City Council is back at the dais, so we're going to reconvene and continue with our discussion on the upcoming budget. The City Manager.
Thank you very much. We are going to move into Public Works. We'll start with General Public Works and then go into the CIP and then come back and finish up the other departments after that. So with that, I am going to turn it over to our Public Works Director and City Engineer, Joe Parco.
Thank you, Ms. City Manager. Good evening. I think it is officially the evening right now. So
good evening.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council. By way of introduction, before I get into the expenditures, the Public Works Engineering Department is responsible for the delivery and construction of all capital improvement projects. The department is also responsible for the maintenance of all city-owned streets and facilities. It oversees the city's NPDS, stormwater, solid waste, and street sweeping programs. And the department also oversees the approval of all private development projects within the city by issuing encroachment permits and reviewing development plans. So with that, I will get into the public works expenditures by department. And so, whoops, kind of skipped the first slide here. Yeah. So I'll start off with the public works general account. For next year, there is going to be a decrease of 7%. And within this budget, personnel costs are allocated to CIP projects. They're based on the proposed projects for next fiscal year. Included also are costs for SB 1383 state requirements, and this one is offset by the second Cal Recycle grant. And next fiscal year, part of the decrease is due to the lower NPDS permit costs that are based on County of Orange and state estimates. And then as well as we no longer have the one-time expenditures that we completed in fiscal year 24-25 of the purchase of the EV truck and the speed study that we performed by the city's consultant traffic engineer. Within the street maintenance account department, there is an increase of 4%. Within this budget, the street maintenance contract will be held relatively flat. Estimates include striping of the streets for routine and deferred annual striping. Special repairs have been held flat. And in this account, incident costs recouped through insurance claims are included in this account. And one special example of this recently occurred. The signal right out here at SMP in El Paseo, it went dark over the weekend, and that was due to a faulty SCE line. And it was on the weekend, so we had to have our traffic maintenance contractor go out and get it up and running. And it was due to a faulty SCE line. So we were able to file a claim for all the labor and all the equipment that was required to get that signal back up and running. So that claim amounts about $10,000. So that is included in the street maintenance budget. And lastly, if you recall in January, at the January meeting, the increase in street sweeping contract for additional seasonal sweeping was approved from October through April. And so the estimated costs for next year are going to be $36,474. And the street sweeping costs for this item is funded with gas tax special revenues. So that ends my discussion on the public works expenditures. So I think we'll go ahead and get into the 7-year. One more slide. Oh, thank you, Ms. City Manager. I forgot the most important budget. It's Terry's budget here, and that is the building maintenance budget. And in this budget, we'll see just a small 2% increase. And within this budget, we will be continuing the maintenance and addition of holiday decorations due to the new Gateway project. Also, utility costs will be hold relatively flat due to projected savings due to the HVAC unit at both buildings and City Hall and BTRC interior LED lighting conversion project. The city is also experiencing lower energy uses as a result, which keeps overall costs down, even though annual increase in utility rates are going up. Okay, I think that ends my discussion on the public works expenditures. I can move on to the 7-year CIP discussion unless there's any questions.
Any questions for Mr. Parco on what he's presented so far? One question for you. With respect to street sweeping, I know that was an issue earlier or last year. How are we doing in terms of the public's reaction to street sweeping with the changes that we've made? Or has there been any noticeable difference?
We have not received, or at least in the city manager's office, we haven't received a single complaint.
Staff has not received any complaints whatsoever.
In this situation, I think no news is good news, so that's good. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Seeing no other questions, why don't you go ahead and proceed?
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Okay, so this part of the budget presentation will be a discussion on the 7-year CIP for fiscal years 2025-26 through 2031-32. So the CIP is a roadmap that provides direction and guidance to the city. It allows the city to carefully plan and manage its assets. It identifies improvements and maintenance projects, provides for a planning schedule tool for these projects, and presents a financing strategy. So as far as the outline for my presentation, I will discuss the status of the current year, fiscal year 2024-25 CIP projects, and then I'll discuss how we come about proposing new CIP projects, the categorization and prioritization of these projects. And then I'll move on to the proposed year 1, 25-26 projects with a budget and funding breakdown for those projects. And then I'll get into the details of each one of those projects. And then I'll discuss notable out-year projects and discuss any questions. And please stop me if you have any questions while I present my presentation. So in fiscal year 24-25, the City Council approved 20 projects. 9 of the 10 projects have been completed and are in the ground. I'm very happy to report that staff was able to construct and deliver 9 of the 10 projects within budget. The 10th budget, the 24-25 annual slurry seal project, will be completed and constructed by July of 2025 in warmer temperatures, kind of like today. 7 of the 10 projects that were initiated and proposed to be continued in fiscal year 25-26 were carryover projects, and those carryover projects are listed in that second bullet point. The skate park and city hall panel project will be discussed in detail later in my presentation. So this next slide talks about how we even come to present projects to City Council. Public Works uses a myriad of tools to help prioritize projects. 9 of the criteria are categories enlisted in this slide. First one is legal or statutory requirements, projects that have that help solve health and welfare concerns, or preventative maintenance, such as overlay projects, and projects that are already funded or within contractual obligations. We also take policy direction. We propose projects that improve traffic circulation and help with the deferred maintenance of city facilities, aesthetic improvements, as well as constituent input. So along with these criteria, staff uses strategic improvement or master plans, such as pavement management system for the roadway system, Caltrans bridge inspection reports for any required bridge maintenance, and staff uses a consultant traffic signal contractor who alerts us when any capital signal system maintenance or improvements are required. Staff also relies on constituent input and policy direction as determined by the City Council and the public. All of these criteria must be considered while maximizing the use of outside funding sources that can give certain qualifying projects higher priority. So moving on to year 1 projects, we divide our projects within 6 categories. Categories fall into street improvement maintenance, special projects, landscaping renovation projects, projects at the City Hall and Bell Tower Regional Community Center, traffic improvements, and bridge projects. So I will get into the details of each one of our projects, but this slide discusses the funding sources and project categories. We have, for next year, 5 street improvement maintenance projects, 1 special project, 5 landscape renovation projects, 2 City Hall and Bell Tower Regional Community Center projects, and 4 traffic improvement projects and 3 bridge projects for a total of 20 projects, for a total of $13 million. So the fund sources can be seen in the second table. 30% of the funds will be general fund reserves, and 25% will be highway bridge program. And the other fund sources are gas tax, Measure M, RMRA, CDBG, CIRA, AQMD, and Project P funds. So 7 of the projects are proposed to use general fund, as I mentioned. Those projects are categorized by priority for the council's consideration in the table below. So approximately $2.2 million dollars are in the essential committed category, and those are the traffic signal enhancement project, the Antonio Parkway Gateway Monument project, the Civic Center non-functional turf replacement and monument landscaping project, and the City Hall BTRCC roof improvements and solar roof panel installation project. The 3 remaining projects that are desirable or / discretionary are the Veterans Monument at Central Park, Antonio Parkway Gateway, the Parkway project, as well as the intersection improvements at Avenida de las Flores and Antonio Parkway. So this is a geographic illustration where all of the proposed CIP projects are located. An 11 by 17 hard copy is included in your staff report. The project numbers are noted for ease of reference with attachment A. So jumping into the first category of street improvement and maintenance projects, we have 5 projects proposed for next year: annual slurry seal, the annual concrete repair, ADA curb ramp installation, SMP pavement rehab, and the Los Alisos pavement rehab projects. So before I discuss the details of this project, the street maintenance category, I thought it'd be a good idea to discuss the life cycle of a street and how staff determines when to perform maintenance on the street, with the end goal of extending the life of the city's streets. This graph shows the life cycle of a street. On the vertical axis is the pavement condition index, and the PCI scale as it relates to the condition or the rideability of the street, which ranges from very good to very poor. The horizontal axis is time in years. Pavement engineers who studied the life of streets have found that streets that are designed and constructed properly can last up to 30 years. As the street ages, once a street reaches 75% of its life, the condition starts to fall off or drop off precipitously. So before that happens, it's incumbent for the pavement engineer to perform maintenance measures to help extend the life of the street. So the included curves on this slide show 3 different maintenance measures that can be performed and the effects of those measures. The curves in red show constructions of slurry seal and overlay projects on the original street. The curve in green shows complete reconstruction on the original street after the street goes beyond the point where overlays or slurry seals can no longer be applied or are no longer affected. By being proactive and applying slurry seal and overlay projects before the drop-off point of the street, the life of the street can be extended anywhere between 10 to 15 years. The cost benefit of being proactive can be seen by comparing the unit costs per square foot as determined by recent construction bid costs. These unit square foot costs shows that complete reconstruction projects cost about 20 times more than slurry seal projects and about 5 times more than asphalt overlay projects. Simply put, the life of the original street can be extended and significant cost savings can be had if these proactive measures are applied strategically and at the right time. So with that in mind, we are proposing the annual slurry seal project in Zone 6B and on various collectors. We're proposing to rehab Santa Margarita Parkway from Melinda Road to the Santa Margarita Parkway Bridge and Los Alisos Boulevard from city to Altisma, city limits to Altisma. Approximate cost for both of these projects is a little over $3 million. Funding sources are gas tax, RMRA, and Measure M. So this slide shows the annual slurry seal program and the annual residential overlay program over 7 years. You'll notice that there's no annual residential overlay project scheduled this year because we are focusing on the arterials that I mentioned previously. The residential overlay projects will pick up, however, in Zone A in year 2 and will progress and rotate per the schedule. So for fiscal year 25-26 concrete repair project, this project will mitigate hazards within the parkway area, and $75,000 is currently budgeted. Staff will be presenting a contract for a concrete slicing vendor that will help to reduce concrete projects in the future by significantly reducing the cost, because when there are panels that are uplifted, you usually have to completely remove and replace that panel. With this vendor, it will allow us to slice, they call it slice the concrete, and not have to remove all of the panels. So we're looking forward to that, and you should see that in June. So the ADA curb ramp installation project is we'll construct ADA compliant curb ramps. Both of these projects will cost a little over $200,000, and the funding sources are gas tax and CDBG funds.
A quick question regarding the sidewalk repairs. When they're lifted due to the roots of the big trees, I think we have a memorandum of understanding with Samlark, and because a lot of those trees are Samlark trees, the first time that it has to be repaired, the cost is to be borne by Samlark. Are we sticking to that?
That is
monitoring that?
That is
We
correct.
do the first, we pay for the first one, and any subsequent one, they pay for. That's the MOU that's in place. And we stamp it with a special stamp so that we know of the ones that have been replaced.
Okay. I guess I remembered it backwards.
I think so. Okay. Terry, am I correct?
That is correct.
Thank you.
Sorry about that. But yes, we do the first one, and then they have to do it if it continues to lift, which means that they didn't address their tree issue.
Okay.
And Mayor Beal, staff just had a discussion in regards to this. We do stamp it, as the city manager said, but we are also keeping an active list of these so that they don't get lost. And if we come upon this area again and we see our list, because if they'll replace it and that stamp will be gone. So there's no way of us telling, because they're replacing the panels. So if we keep this list and we come upon it, we'll know that it's the second time to be fixed.
That's smart. Thank you.
Okay, so we have one project in the special projects category, and this is the Veterans Monument at Central Park. So you may recall the conceptual design for this project was approved at the 7/10/24 council meeting. The location of this project, just as a refresher, because I know Councilman Barrett, you were not there, the location will be behind the Plaza of the Flags, which makes it an ideal location for any future dedication ceremonies. The proposed monument will be constructed with the same design palette as the City Hall parking lot entry monument, so as to provide an integrated theme through the City Hall area and the proposed Veterans Monument area. The monument is proposed to be 32 inches to 36 inches high and 32 inches wide. Total length of the monument is approximately 12 feet. The monument will be faced with 18-inch by 24-inch granite plaques with 14-inch diameter castings of the various military branches. A master dedication plaque would be centered on a 24-inch by 24-inch piece of granite. And comments received at the July council meeting were to include seating so that people can sit and enjoy the monument. Staff will construct at least one, possibly two benches in this area. Another city council comment was to include lighting. Staff has worked with the city's electrical contractor, and lighting will be included as part of the final project. Total approximate cost of the project will be $100,000 through general fund reserves. In the schedule for the project, we have a conceptual design, so we will finalize that design based on the approved design concept. And in winter of 2025, we'll obtain an easement from Samlark, bid the project, and construct the monument in spring of 2026. All right, so the next category is landscape and beautification projects. We have 5 projects in this category. We have a traffic and signal enhancement project, Antonio Parkway Gateway Improvements, the monument, Antonio Parkway Gateway Improvements median, as well as the Parkway and Civic Center non-functional turf replacement and monument landscaping projects. Before I get into these 5 proposed landscaping projects, I must note that the 241 landscaping project will not be proposed for construction in this year's CIP. As this project is using general funds, and we have other proposed landscape projects that rate higher in terms of the priority ranking, this project will not be proposed for construction. The design has been completed, however, so if council wants to revisit this project, the plans have been finalized per the last council direction on this project.
Do you have the cost on that handy?
Yes, Mayor Beal, the cost when we last estimated was $300,000.
I drove by there the other day. There's currently orange net fencing on both sides. Are we doing that? And do you know what that is?
So if you drive down the toll road, you'll actually see a bunch of that fencing. And we contacted Caltrans, and they said that they have a project that will be constructing metal beam guardrail along the 241. So I'm not quite sure why the fencing goes all the way up the off-ramp, though. We asked them again the second question. But my thoughts are that as you come off the toll road, there are some signal poles that are close to the curb. A few of them have actually got nicked if you pay attention to it. So I think that they'll be placing guardrail close to those street light posts. But if you look close enough, it says environmentally sensitive habitat.
I saw that.
So if that is the case, we would have to modify our plans to take into account that habitat.
Have we already shared with them our potential plan?
Yes, we have. We worked with, Tree worked with the maintenance district supervisor for this area and worked with him as far as our plans. And we actually contacted him, and he has no idea what the project's about. I guess they don't contact to the Capitol. They don't discuss the projects with the Capitol group, but we will try and find out exactly what's going on in that area, and we can report that back.
Okay, thank you.
So the first of the projects is the traffic signal enhancements project. The purpose of this project is to replace high-pressure sodium vapor bulbs with LED lighting and install decorative street light features such as scrolls and bases. Next fiscal year, 5 intersections are proposed. So as way of background, the traffic signal enhancement program started in fiscal year 15-16, and it's progressing nicely. 37 intersections will be completed by the end of this fiscal year, which includes 7 intersections to be completed by July. After these 7 intersections are constructed, we will have 15 intersections remaining to complete the entire program. Then we will move into a maintenance program after that. So the approximate cost for next year's project is $305,000. $105,000 of that is Measure M. $200,000 is general fund reserves. Oops. So the next slide is talking about the phasing plan to complete the project. As I mentioned, in fiscal year 25-26, 5 intersections are proposed along Plano Trabuco, Joshua Drive, Las Amigas, Alice Des Paz, Robinson Ranch Road, and Dove Canyon Drive. So the remaining 2 years will be constructed intersections on Las Flores, Antonio, and Avenida de las Banderas. And finally, in fiscal year 27-28, we will finish up the program with enhancements in the Robinson Ranch Road, Arroyo Vista, and Dove Canyon intersections.
Mr. Mayor.
Mayor Pro Tem.
May I interrupt you real quickly,
Yes,
Joe?
please.
Completed. Yellow is completed. Does that mean they've been painted?
Yes,
'Cause
yes.
that's not accurate.
Oh, okay.
I can tell you. I know that at the corner of Arroyo Vista and Banderas, that's not been done.
Arroyo Vista and Banderas.
I believe there's one over on Las Flores. It's hard to read. I can't. Thanks a lot, Jerry. It may be Alma Aldea, but I can't.
Alma Aldea.
Councilmember Holloway will vouch for the fact I cannot read it. But I know for a fact Arroyo Vista and Banderas has not been done.
Okay, thanks for bringing that to our attention.
So I think we were supposed to do 5 this last fiscal year, if I remember correctly. It may have been 4, but I think it was 5. And we might want to check and see if they've been done, because I happen to drive by that intersection every single day. So.
Yes, we will definitely check
Okay,
that.
thank you.
So the next project is the combined Antonio Parkway gateway improvements that includes the monument and median. So the description of this project is the construction of a raised decorative median along Antonio Parkway from the southern city limits to Cañada Vista Park, and construction of a decorative gateway monument wall with landscaping. This project will enhance the city's southerly point of entry, and the project is progressing nicely. I'm pleased to report that the median curb is constructed. The hardscape, i.e. the pattern stamped concrete, is about 80% complete. The water connection will start this week, and irrigation will start to be placed within the median next week. The stone veneer that will face the monument is to be delivered within the next few weeks. That's coming from Mexico. Pilaster stone caps on the monument will be completed once the stone veneer arrives and is placed. The California pepper trees have been identified and approved by our landscape consultant. They've been tagged, and once irrigation is completed, the contractor will begin to schedule for their installation. The anticipated completion is in August.
Mr. Mayor.
Mayor Pro Tem.
That's great. That's great news. I just wanted to verify, I think I may have passed over it, but when we do the Christmas decorations that we're buying, I take it that monument will also be decorated similar to the Alicia T monument?
We've received an estimate for that, and we are evaluating the options for that. Prices have gone up considerably, and we're going to be talking with at least one vendor at ICSC to see what we can do to maybe make it a little more cost effective. But yes, you are correct. The idea, and there is funding in the budget for additional decor, and we would have identified this area as
that would be great. I just remember when we built the Alicia T, people loved the Alicia T when it was done, they were questioning the building of it, but when it was done, they loved it. And then at Christmas time, they were absolutely thrilled with how it looked entering the city. And I think Antonio Parkway will even be more beautiful because there's nothing around it. And as you come into the city, it'll just be really a highlight coming in. And so if we can, and we'll work on that when we go back to ICSC, but if we can find a way to decorate that monument, that would be fantastic. Thank you. I'm sorry to interrupt you. Thank you.
No problem, Councilman Nigger. And Tree just clarified that confusion regarding the traffic signal enhancements. Previously, I said that we have 7 intersections that will be completed. They have not yet been completed, so we're waiting for good weather to do that for the
I can count on you to get right back to me, Joe.
It was
been
Tree.
Like 3 minutes.
It was
man.
Tree.
I appreciate it. While I'm thinking about the Antonio Gateway, right now the stamped concrete is gray. It's like the color of concrete. It's going to be red like the rest of the city. Is that accurate?
Yes, that's correct.
All right. Thank you. Appreciate it.
You're welcome.
So it's not poured as a colored concrete, it's poured as gray and
I
then we
understand.
stain it?
Yes, that's correct.
Thank you.
So as I mentioned, the schedule, we are looking to finish this project by August. The approximate cost is a little over $1.08 million for the median, $150,000 carried over for the monument. The funding sources are Measure M, gas tax, and RMRA for the median, and general fund reserves for the monument. So this next project is Antonio Parkway Gateway Improvements Parkway. This project was proposed in last year's budget, and it was decided to separate this project from the Gateway Monument project. It is being proposed for this fiscal year. The purpose is to enhance the city's southerly point of entry. The approximate cost is $1.6 million, and this will be paid for through general fund reserves.
Mayor Pro Tem.
There's no Measure M contribution for something like that?
No, there is not, unfortunately, Councilmember Miguer.
Seems like a hefty price for that, considering we just approved or are probably about to approve a $1.4 million bump in the OCSD contract. But I'm just throwing that out there for thought. Notwithstanding the fact I love the idea of building this, but the cost seems pretty high to me.
I look forward to seeing it completed.
Mayor Beal?
Oh, yes, Councilmember Holloway.
A question about this improvement as well. I certainly share the cost issue. And bring me back the landscape part of it and the decisions. I mean, those 4 examples that you're showing is what was decided to landscape it with, right?
That's correct.
Yeah. This was a bid that you got how long ago?
This was a bid as alternative with the Antonio Parkway Gateway project, so it's very recently.
Talk about, if you can, completing this over 2 budget years, if that's even something that you could consider. And I could just be talking about something that can't be done. I know we're revisiting this, but I think it's worth more discussion. Is it something that, I don't expect an exact answer here, that could be done and not look terrible as it was spread out?
So we can schedule the project so it takes place over 2 fiscal years. I'll be talking about the non-functional turf project where that will span 2 fiscal years, but we can definitely schedule the construction of the project so that it spans 2 fiscal years.
Is the difference between hardscape and landscape here, is the landscape more expensive than the hardscape or vice versa or similar?
Tree, do you have those costs offhand? I don't have those costs offhand, Councilmember Holler. I can get back to you on that.
I do know that the woodcrete fencing was quite expensive, but it would save money in the long run for maintenance. I mean, having regular wood is just a maintenance nightmare. So the woodcrete fencing itself is very expensive. I don't have an answer whether how much it is in relation to the plant material. I would suspect that the plant material is probably less expensive than the hardscape, but we do need irrigation put in there, and so that's part of it. The other thing that may affect the cost, when we go back to bid for this is, that stone veneer, if it's being imported from, I think you said Mexico, it's going to be a higher cost than what we had originally anticipated. That's not to say that we can't change it, do something different. Maybe we don't have as many pilasters to kind of bring the cost down. But those are really the components of the project, which is the woodcrete fencing, the pilasters, the plant material, and the irrigation. Now, if the council wanted to maybe remove something in there, we could probably bring the cost down somewhat. But again, in this environment, I just don't know where the bids would come in at.
The subject of other funding, as time goes on here, the likelihood of finding or getting additional funding from other sources talk about that. Is that not likely because it obviously didn't happen here?
Yeah, I don't see any grant funds there's no grant funds available. What I don't know is if Measure M could be used for it, and we've just allocated Measure M to other projects. And that's a question for Stephanie and Joe.
So, Councilmember Holloway, if you could forgive me for just a minute, Tree and I will pull up that bid and we can give you an answer.
Thank you. While you're doing that, I'm just wondering if
I think Stephanie had an answer for the question.
Thank you, Ms. City Manager. So just as a quick overview, with the special revenue funds, we get a very specific amount every year, and so based on what they've projected and how they would use the Measure M and so forth, we're only estimating about 111,000 unspent Measure M funds by the end of next fiscal year. So there isn't a lot of leeway in adding very much to this project if there, can be used towards this project. So sometimes that's also part of the concern is that there's only so much to go around when it comes to special revenues and the other projects that are out there and need to be done.
So I guess there's two parts of that answer. One is if this project is an eligible project for either the gas tax or Measure M, and then secondly, I think, and more importantly, is we don't have sufficient funding in this fiscal year to add a project of this magnitude to those special funds.
Okay. So Amy, if you could project, I have the cost up on the screen right now. So I know it's kind of hard to read, Councilmember Holloway, but this was the alternate bid received by CS Legacy, and their bid for the Parkway Stone veneer pilaster was a total of $377,000. The 3-rail concrete fence was $470,000, and the Parkway lighting and electrical amounted to $352,000.
Is there any way to make that any bigger at all?
Yeah, I'm trying to, but this thing won't.
Sorry, my fault. My fault. I'm trying.
The Adobe is not cooperating with me here on this computer. Let's see. Yeah, I don't know why it's not allowing me to magnify.
We're all leaning up.
So I guess I can just read it off here for you, Councilmember Holloway. The total cost was $1.6 million. Like I said, the Parkway irrigation installation amounted to $188,000. The Parkway stone veneer pilaster, like I said, was almost $380,000. The 3-rail concrete fence was $470, and the lighting and electrical was $352. So if I add up all of the landscaping, let's see, 30 plus 12, 42. That's about $42,000 for the parkway shrubs. And the decomposed granite within the parkway is about $59,000. And the parkway soil prep is $35,000. And again, the irrigation is about $188,000.
Is the cost on here, maybe I'm missing it, for ongoing irrigation and maintenance of the landscape?
No, that's just this parkway 90-day maintenance period is until the plants are established. So once that happens, then the city has to pay for the irrigation.
I have the same concerns that I had about the 241 project, that the landscape, water, and all that goes into that being ongoing costs, when something that's more permanent. I had the same concerns when we talked about this, ongoing maintenance, water, and irrigation issues. It's expensive. I get that. Yeah, I have concerns as well. I would love to figure out a way to bring some of these costs down, or defer this for 2 years. I mean, split the construction over 2 years. Still not sure about the economy.
Councilmember Figueroa.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. I'm also looking at these numbers. I know that we probably have used the most expensive fencing material we can, concrete. There's probably nothing more expensive than that, correct, Joe?
Yes, it is a very expensive
Yeah.
concrete. It's the most decorative,
So have we looked at any other materials out there? I know that in terms, they've come out with some great things lately, especially when it comes to decking materials that are basically indestructible. I mean, they last forever, that are made to look like wood. It just seems to me that, I think this would be a great project to get done. It would finish and complement everything else that we're doing over there. But to me, it just seems like there should be some other alternatives. I know we don't want to do wood because of the maintenance, but it just seems like there should be some other alternatives that we can look at.
We could definitely look into that,
Okay.
Councilmember Figueroa. I think what you're referring to is a woodcrete fence.
I think we should really consider that, and I think the cost would be significantly lower.
We may want to look back at the original concepts, because I know that we chose the woodcrete, which is a concrete fencing, and the council chose not to do the wood itself. There may have been like a resin type alternative that was not chosen for whatever reason, but we would have to go back and look at that and then see what that cost difference was. Of course, this would all have to go back out to bid again, because it's just the prices aren't going to be the same that they are now, or they were in this period of time. But we can look and see what other alternatives were looked at for the fencing material.
And then in addition to, the illustration shows 3 different, rails here. Can we go down to 2? That would save a significant amount of money. Also, if we maybe eliminated a pilaster and maybe let the length of the fence go a little bit longer. To me, I think there are ways we could get this cost down for at least consideration. So I do think it would be an amazing project to get done to complement what we're working on right now. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Mayor, may I just interject real quickly? I just want to make sure that it's clear, based upon my prior comments, I'm totally in favor of doing something there. I'm not sure about everybody else. I'm in favor of completing a project. But I know since we last debated this, was it just last year or was it 2 years ago? Last year?
Last year.
At one point, we had it included with the entire project. And then within a subsequent meeting, because of the costs, we separated it out. And it just seems to me longer than a year. But I was thinking the exact same thing that Councilmember Figueroa just mentioned, the resin. I can't recall if we considered a resin alternative for the fencing. my wife and I watch enough HGTV to know that there are resin decks that last a long time without, being destroyed, and that might be a more cost-effective fencing. And I like the idea of maybe not having three fences, if you will, and railings as opposed to two. I'm not sure you can do that or not, whether it would look good or not. But I just want it clear that I would love to have this completed, but it'd be nice to try to have a new look at it to determine whether the costs may have gone up from last year versus what we can save by using a resin fencing and other ideas that Councilmember Figueroa just brought up.
Something to keep in mind, and that's fine, and we can certainly do that. This was an alternate bid item, and as a result, in order to even be an alternate bid item, the plans and specifications are done. It's 100% plans and specifications. So we can go back and look at some of these alternatives. We are going to need to get, the engineering company. I don't know if we would bring Rick back in or not, but we would need to have some design work done on it and then another cost estimate. So it's not something that in-house that we're going to do. We would have to have some money in the budget to do that work because it's not something that we can just mix and match on paper. We're going to have to get the design consultant back to run those numbers, see what that looks like, see what other materials are there, look at the spacing of the pilasters. I just want to be very upfront about that the plans are done. If we're going to deviate from them, which may be beneficial from a cost standpoint, we are going to need to go back and do some good design work on that. And I just want to make sure that the council is okay with that.
For what it's worth, I'm fully in favor of this as it is. This is the southern gateway to our city. It's a super important area, and it's very highly traveled. And as the city manager just mentioned, we've got full plans and specs. We've already fully vetted this entire project. For 30 years, this side of the street, it's been an eyesore. You've got crooked, rusty, sometimes falling down barbed wire with weeds growing through it. It diminishes the views in that area. And we're installing right now in a beautiful median. Across the street, you're going to have the sign. So it seems awkward that we're going to leave the eyesore when we're doing the rest of this project. As the city manager just mentioned, if we delay again, it's going to result in increased costs. No matter what, we're going to have extra work to do as far as plans and specs. But inflation, the cost of materials will go up. We heard earlier tonight there's $32 million in reserve if we can afford it. This, like the other beautification projects that we've done throughout our city, I believe will increase fair market value of properties, homes, everything, businesses in our community. We have, it increases the desirability to live or operate a business in Rancho Santa Margarita. I believe we need to compete with the newer developments in the area like Rancho Mission Viejo and Ladera Ranch, and we should try and make Rancho a beautiful community. And this is an area that could definitely use some fixing up. The project costs, I think this benefits every resident. Everyone drives by there. And if you take the project cost divided by 50,000, it's a whopping $32.50 a person. One-time expense, and we're done. And for all those reasons, I'd suggest we do it and do it now, and we'll enjoy the benefits for years.
May I ask one more question?
Mayor
If we were to approve it at this point, do you happen to know when it would be constructed? Joe?
So if it was approved tonight, we have the plans. We would go out to bid. We could go out right after July and be in construction within the next 3 to 4 months after that.
Or we could delay the bid advertisement until the latter part of the fiscal year so that it straddled 2 fiscal years. We could do that as well.
Pretend I'm in 5th grade. What does that mean as far as when it would be constructed?
divided in two, for
we could
example. So
choose.
from
We
a
could-
budgeting standpoint, you have 800 one year and 800 in the next budget.
But
Yeah.
when it would be built?
So it would be, it would,
delays.
The following
well,
year?
there's two scenarios. One is we would go out to bid in July, and it would probably be constructed by the end of the calendar year, right?
Yeah.
The other option is it would go out to bid in, say, February, March, and it would start construction in April-ish and end by July or August of the following year. And that would allow it to hit two different fiscal years, budgets.
Okay.
So we could move it as quickly or as not quickly as the council would desire.
I've heard nothing but good points from everybody who has spoken on this. And so it's a tougher call. But thank you. Appreciate that.
Mr. Mayor?
One, Mr. Mayor, too, I just
One sec. Councilmember Holloway spoke before you, and then we'll
I'm
come
sorry.
right back to you.
I know you spoke to the ongoing costs in reference to irrigation and landscape maintenance. What was that number again?
So are you referring to the maintenance costs after it's constructed?
Correct.
So, Mr. Terry Gregory said $18 per square foot. So do you know
I guess I need the square foot then to
how
do the
much?
math here.
So the median is 18,000 square feet. Mayor, Councilmember Holloway, let me do a quick calculation here. 18,000.
Are we talking about the median or the parkway? Yeah, he's
Parkway.
asking about the parkway.
Parkway.
So
Just Parkway.
I don't think we have that information tonight. I'm just going to go out on a limb and say we don't have that information available tonight on the cost, but we can certainly get. I know it exists somewhere. We've looked at it before, but I don't think we have that information
Is
this
there a
evening.
range? I mean, any guesstimate without holding you to it?
I'd have to ask these gentlemen.
While they're looking at, I have the same thoughts as I think that both folks have spoken. Certainly something that needs to be done. To the degree that it needs to be done, I think is for me, is the debate. It's kind of like the 241 project. I felt like anything that we did that would include ongoing costs, irrigation, landscape that needs maintenance was an issue to me. And the cost was, there's a benefit to it, and that benefit is there. But I personally, I would like to see this done. If the council wants this to move forward, I'd like to see it done over 2 years to split the costs up. And I understand there's issues with that, but also the landscaping, which the irrigation costs, landscape and ongoing, is a concern that. Exact same concern I had with the 241 project. I think it can still be a very nice looking area with other than irrigation type plants. I mean, there are ways there, whether it be, to me, rocks can look good and it can save a lot of money. It doesn't have to be elaborate landscape. But I do agree that it needs to be done, but for me, not at this cost.
So, Councilmember Holloway, the median is about 18,000 square feet, so the parkway will be a little bit more than that. So we'll just estimate at 20,000 square feet. So we have a cost of $20 per square feet per month. So just round numbers, we're talking about $1,000 per month for maintenance of the parkway. So that amounts to be about $12,000 per year.
Yes, that adds up. That's another concern as well. I understand the irrigation. I understand the irrigation costs and all the benefit of the median more than I do the parkway. Go ahead. Sorry.
The costs, I believe, are higher for the actual maintenance, the landscape maintenance, the labor of the plant material than the water. The water is typically not a high cost. It's more our adding to our landscape contract that we have.
Right. Thank you.
I mean, there is an option of just not having landscaping.
Well, personally, I think that we need landscaping. It doesn't have to be this expensive, and it can still be beautiful and effective.
Oh, sir. Councilmember Barrett.
I do have a couple questions about this. How often does a car hit that area or go off the road in that area? Do you know by any chance?
I do not. Unfortunately, Councilmember Barrett, I don't know if you know Dwayne offhand.
Okay, so this is solely a beautification project, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Is there any way to come back to us and tell us if any other funding other than reserve funding can be used? I know we talked about we're not sure if Measure M funds could be. We don't have as much. Is there a way to come back to us about maybe reallocating from different projects so not everything is general reserve fund from the reserve fund?
We could, I would not recommend that because the other projects that we have allocated gas tax and Measure M funds to are higher priority projects, and we would not be able to move them from those projects. I mean, you would be wiping out a significant portion of the CIP that's here in front of you. Our street repair projects, our roadway projects, our signal maintenance and our signal enhancement projects. I would not recommend that. The amount of money that we potentially would have to put towards this project from either Measure M or gas tax, and I'm saying those interchangeably, and I don't know if it's even an eligible project, it is maybe $100,000. It's not going to significantly reduce the cost of this project. I mean, we will look at that. We can see if there's other possibilities, but for the all intents and purposes, the council should consider this project as a general fund project. And if there is a little bit of money that can be put towards it from other sources, we'll do that. But there's no way that we're going to be able to get even close to $1.6 million from grant funds.
Okay, thank you.
Councilmember Figueroa.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm not sure if this is for Joe or Jennifer, but the estimate that we've received on this project to date, is there any concern about it going higher because of the tariffs, or is this a hard and fast number? I mean,
Well, certainly.
costs have gone up.
The stone veneer would be one potential. The plant material is all pretty much locally sourced, so I'm not necessarily concerned about that. I don't know whichever type of fencing material that the council landed on. I will note, and I know that the city clerk brought around larger printouts of this. I don't know. I think everyone has received them. If you turn to the second page, at the bottom, you'll see there were 4 bids actually on this. They were because we received multiple bids for the Antonio Parkway Gateway Improvement Program as a whole. And this was an alternate bid item because we wanted to see what it would come in at, because if it came in at a price that we felt was doable given the available resources that we had at the time, we were going to add it to the main project. And the council, in reviewing that, determined that, no, we're going to push this one off. So you can see here that the prices, the bid prices actually ranged from $1.35 million all the way up to $2.1 million. And again, these were alternate bid items, and it's a little bit misleading because this is what a contractor who already would be mobilized for another part of the project would charge on this, and it may not be exactly apples to apples. If they bid it out today, it may be completely different. But it just gives you an idea that there is a range. We just don't. I don't have answers yet on which components might be subject to tariff increases at this moment.
So tonight we're not approving a dollar amount then, because we don't know what that dollar amount is going to look like.
We would be approving it in the CIP. If it came back different, the council could choose at that point in time to either lower the budget amount or add funding.
Councilmember Figueroa is correct, though. What we're doing tonight is we're just talking about what we're putting in the budget in the
Correct.
CIP.
Yes.
This item ultimately will come back to the city council for a final approval. So it's possible, isn't it, Ms. City Manager, that we could keep this in the budget as proposed, keep the same timing, knowing that it ultimately is going to come back to the City Council with the final bid for review and approval. If there's an interest at that time to cut out or reduce plant material, change that landscaping to, rocks or something else, isn't that something that we could do at that time?
Not after we've already bid it. So we would need to know if there's a desire for us to go back and do additional design work or alternative design work, and then bring something back. But the project as it stands today is fully ready to go. And we can't bid it and then come and start redesigning
If you
it
get a
after the
bid,
bids are
you
out.
couldn't just say, well, we're not going to do the plants and just cut that out?
You would have to bid it as alternate bid items and be able.
That be done?
Yeah, well, Joe?
Yes, we can
okay.
certainly do that, Ms. City
Yeah,
Manager.
but you couldn't say, well, I want this instead of that. Does that make sense? You could, if you have components that you bid out and some of them are alternate bid items, you can choose to do that bid item or not, but you can't say, well, on the fly, let's say you had a bid in front of you, okay, well, we're not going to do landscaping, but can you do rocks? It can't work that way.
If it was an alternative bid item,
You could take off the items, but if you were saying that you wanted the rocks as an alternate bid item, we need to do the design work in advance of bidding it out to know what that project looks like.
Do we know what, like if we revise some of the design of it, like what that number might look like? I mean, do we have, because if it's, I would think it's pretty nominal.
So, Mayor Beal, if I could understand your question, I think what you're asking is, can we bid this project out similar to what we did for the Gateway project with add-on alternate bids? We can certainly have an add-on alternate bid for the concrete fence, and if that price or the complete price becomes too large, we can not choose to award that part. And so then we would be left with the remaining items. And so that could be a cost that would be less than the $1.6 million that's budgeted. So that's an option.
And I think, Joe, to maybe rephrase the Councilwoman Figueroa's question, ballpark, to bring in some limited design work to redesign some of the elements, what kind of dollar figure would we be talking about?
So if we're talking about landscaping, that would be a landscape consultant or architect. If we're talking about reducing the types of shrubs to a minimal amount, I would guesstimate anywhere from $10,000 to $15,000.
How much?
$10,000 to $15,000.
To do some
Because
additional design
they'll have
work.
to do the irrigation. They'll have to redesign the irrigation for the reduced landscaping as well, and that's on the conservative side.
Mr. Mayor, I would propose that we keep this into the CIP at this point in time, and then we can look at it again. It's going to come back to us anyway, and if we get the opportunity by spending $15,000 or whatever to use a cafeteria plan, for lack of a better phrase, we can all look at it at that point, similar to what we did with the 241 when we were arguing over Bougainvillea and everything else. Because I just like this. I like the idea of getting it done. But obviously I want to save as much money as we can and make it look as good as possible, particularly given the fact we have the monument right across the street. What I don't want to see, that's why I asked when it would be done, I just don't want to see this play out for 2 or 3 years, and we're arguing about this 2 or 3 years, or if we're still here down the line. If we're going to do it, let's do it. But I like the idea of keeping it in the CIP at this point in time, approving it, and then have it come back to us in the hopes that we can have a final look before we start.
If the council is amenable to it, then we can, as part of this budgeted amount as a placeholder, spend some funding on some limited alternative design work.
Okay.
Then I think that would be prudent, but I just want to make sure that the council's okay with us doing that.
Right.
and you're referring to the $10,000 to $15,000 quote we had heard.
Right.
Sorry, I'm sorry.
The city manager was just referring to the limited design work to possibly reconsider the landscaping element. And that's the $10,000 or $15,000 quote that we heard a bit ago that she's referring to. I'm supportive of the Mayor Pro Tem's suggestion. Keep it in our budget in the CIP. It's going to come back to us. I'm good with the cost that you just referred to as well, if that is necessary.
And Mr. Mayor, I just want to add on, I agree 100%. I really would love to see this project getting done. And we really don't have any large beautification projects on the horizon yet in terms of this magnitude. And I'd say let's get it done. It's going to finish what we were already started. And one way or another, I think it's going to be a huge improvement to our city.
Bringing it back to, again, when will this come back to, again, what's the time frame?
Well, what we would do after tonight, or not tonight, after the budget is adopted in June, what we would do is, and Joe can even start contacting the landscape designer that worked on this, and I think that is probably the most economical way of doing it, rather than bringing in a new company, and getting them to start work on some limited design, redesign, looking at the different fencing material options, looking at different landscaping options. And, then Stephanie could even have a better picture on some of the funding, if there is any grant, any of those other special revenue funds that might be available, even on a limited basis. And then we would bring it back to the council after that design kind of, I don't even want to call it like a redesign, but sort of retooling with some options, and we could bring that back to the council probably, I would say, end of summer.
That's doable.
Yeah.
So let me get this process again. So what I'm hearing is approve it as it is. Let a designer look at this again to see where they can cut costs.
Or provide alternatives.
Do you need more? Wouldn't you need more input? Because you haven't heard from 5 people yet what they really want. So how would Carrie? Do you what?
It's going to come back to us.
But
for that
it's going to come back after it's approved and for changes, right? That's what she's saying. It's going to be approved, and once it's approved, and then the deal is done, come back and talk about it again.
I think tonight all that we're talking about is keeping it in the CIP. It will come back to us before anything is approved as far as final design and approval. That would be coming back like in summertime to us for discussion at that point.
But you're still going to need conversation from the council as to what it is more specifically that we want, because we've generalized here at some point. Don't we need to have another run at this? But that would occur
If the council would
after.
like to have that conversation, we can. It's going to increase the design costs. I mean, what I've heard tonight is we want to look at alternative types of fencing, spacing out the pilasters a little bit further. That I'm not unclear on those things, and looking at some alternative pallets or either plant material versus rock type material for where the landscaping is. Is there something else that I'm?
Well, I mean, I guess I'll ask the council, is there a desire to try to reduce the costs, or are we wasting the time to even do that? I'm not sure I understand everybody's position here.
I think we've all agreed in the hopes that we could reduce the costs, and I'm not getting into a dialogue necessarily. My position would be that to keep it in the CIP, otherwise it's shelved. Keep it in the CIP. Talk to I would agree with you regarding the same contractor. We don't want to start from scratch. We dealt with this once before, at least once before, maybe twice before regarding this, and then see if there is a cost savings method, either the construction of the fencing material or the landscaping or whatever it might be. But I think that, if I understand correctly, by keeping it in the CIP at this point in time, it doesn't take away the opportunity to go back and fine-tune it when we come back. Is that accurate? I mean,
That's accurate, but I guess maybe I'm a little confused about, is the council looking to redesign this project? Or are they looking just to tweak some of the materials involved that may reduce the cost?
My opinion, the latter.
Okay.
Possibly tweak. Not a full redesign.
Right.
So,
We've already vetted it at length.
So a tweak would be we go talk to the designer about these elements, and then we bring back the findings, if you will, and say, yeah, we could reduce the cost if we did this instead of that, or if we used this type of material versus that type of material. Or they may say, no, you have no cost savings whatsoever. I don't know what the answer is. But that's more of a tweak. But if it's we want to talk about the color of the decomposed granite, or we want to look at not having a fence, or we want to look at a different like I know we spent a lot of time on the 241 about the boulder colors. That's going to require more effort and a longer conversation, and it won't be 10 to 15,000. We're probably over about the 30,000.
My proposal was the latter. My proposal was a tweak. We've done this before. We did this when we talked about the median and the monument on Antonio, the Gateway project. And my feeling is the latter, a tweak, not a redesign. That's been my proposal on this. So I'm not sure how everybody else feels, but that's my feeling.
So I think where just to kind of bring it back full circle where I started, this project as it exists right now is shovel ready. It's ready to be bid today if we wanted to. We have the estimated cost. So if anything we do to those design plans is going to change that aspect of it being ready to bid. And the more discussion you have about it and bringing someone back, doing the council meeting, providing another alternative, it's going to increase that cost and the time period involved in it. And if we're doing a tweak, I think we can get those answers relatively cheaply and quickly. But if we want to redesign it, or the council wants to redesign this and do new, completely new specs and everything, it's going to be a larger project than where I would feel comfortable, tonight with the budget amount.
Well, when you get back to the designer, correct me if I'm wrong, if the question to the designer is, hey, look for ways to lower the cost. That's one approach. I'm not saying you're going to do that, and it takes time there. Or we're interested in, here's what we want you to look at. 2 bars instead of 3, rocks instead of, that's going to be cheaper than brainstorm all of it. There's going to be more time.
Correct.
Here, we want you to make this change. It's like a change order, okay? But it's not a change order yet because you haven't bid it. You bid it, if we go ahead and bid this thing, and that sounds like that's the way it's going to happen here. Wouldn't it be better for us to be more specific on what we want them to look at changing? And have it, whether it be this meeting or in the next study session, talk about that amongst ourselves and be more specific what areas we're willing to look to change?
I might be missing something. I feel I have that direction based on the conversation we've had here tonight. But if I'm missing something, by all means, I'm more than happy to talk about it.
Okay, then what is it that you're perceiving that we want the designer to look at?
The different materials that could be used to construct the fencing, changing the number of bars on the fencing, changing the length at which the pilasters are constructed, and looking at alternative, less expensive plant material, or changing from plants to sort of a rockscape type plant instead of plants, rockscape.
So there are 3 head nods on those subjects? I don't know that there is. It doesn't sound like that. I mean,
Well, we can go down the
I'm wrong.
line and see where everybody stands.
May I real quick? And what we would do is if we took that group of questions, if you will, to the design firm and said, provide us with options regarding these, or what are your thoughts on these, or what is your cost estimate on these, and they would provide us that direction. We would bring all that information, the cost of the woodcrete versus the cost of the vinyl resin versus the cost of wood versus the cost of 2 bars versus the cost of 3 bars versus you space them out every 20 feet of the pilasters or you space them out every 30 feet of the pilasters, and what those cost differences would be. And we would bring that to council and say, this is our recommendation. This is the best that we can do for reducing the cost, and this is how it happens. And then the council at that point would say, yes, go bid that out, or no, we want to keep designing it, or we want to scrap it. Those would be the 3 options at that point in time.
Yeah, and I agree, as long as there's 3 head nods on those subjects, I'm all for it. But if there isn't, we'd be wasting money. Is that, everybody agrees then?
The money that you're referring to is this additional design cost to address those issues.
As an example, if I'm the only one interested in, a different type of landscape, rocks or something else, then let's don't waste the time and have him spend money looking at bids if there's only one head nod. That's my point here.
For what it's worth, I'm more than willing tonight to just approve it as it is and keep it as it was proposed in the same timing. I'm willing to support all the things that I've heard from my colleagues to just try and keep this in the CIP moving forward, because I believe the more we delay, the more the costs increase, and the residents don't get the benefit of this project, which I think would be great. So I'd approve it as it is tonight and be more than happy. I'll also go along with the head nods for the tweaks to have, no matter what, if we approved it as it is tonight, wouldn't it have to come back to us before a final approval is made? I mean, all we're doing is approving it to keep it in the budget. Right. So tonight's an easy vote, as far as I'm concerned. Let's just keep it in the CIP. It's got to come back to us no matter what.
Just point of clarification, it is ready to be bid. It's fully 100%.
But those bids are going to come back before us, and we could reject them if we chose to at that point.
That's true, but what would be bid would be the full 100% plans and specifications that we already have, not the alternative items.
And if I could get 3 heads shaking for that, I'm good with that too.
That's the point, because this is an old proposal. I mean, not proposal, but quote. We have to know anyway. So in any event, it's going to come back to us. So my head's nodding as far as keeping it in the budget, in the CIP.
Mine as well.
There's 3 nods. Doesn't matter at this point.
Any other discussion on this item? Anybody?
I would like clarification.
As to what?
So the 3 head nods, are they just to proceed as is, or are they to go and look at tweaks? I want to make
Anybody besides me want to just approve it as it is tonight? The alternative is to have the city manager work with the public works director to have the consultant give us those options about plant material, fence material, and that would be brought back to us for the final approval.
And that would happen probably, you said relatively, you
She
could
said
probably
end
get it
of
done
summer.
relatively quickly, like in the summer.
We would come back with the final new design or options available by the end of summer.
That's my preference.
Yes, I mean, that's fine with me as well. I mean,
I'll
I
support
agree,
that.
this is only a placeholder in the budget tonight. That's how I'm looking at it.
Anyone else?
I would say that if we're going to move forward, that I would like to see cost reductions to it, not saying that I would approve it with the cost reductions. So, I mean, I'm for, if we're going to go for it, then I would rather see cost reductions. I would not approve it as is.
So we have 3 head nods. I don't know where if you want to nod at all, but
I'll nod up, but what's the question?
you're supportive of the tweak design concept coming back to us in
I would
summer.
prefer doing that all now.
Which
but
would reduce-
If that's the alternative,
It
sure.
would give us alternatives to reduce the cost, and that would be presented possibly end of summer thereabouts.
If you have enough from us, yes, the head is nodding.
All right.
I honestly don't feel there's that much leeway or to work with to reduce the cost. There's like very finite amount of things we can look at that, I don't know that there, it's not like we have the gamut of things like we're starting from scratch. So I think we have enough to provide the council with optional information by the end of summer, and then you can decide where you want to go with it.
Right.
Got it.
Okay. I think we've got direction on that item. Let's move on.
Nobody can say.
Okay, moving on to the next project. This is the last project in the landscaping category. It's project 15, and this is the Civic Center non-functional turf replacement and monument landscaping project. The description for this project is to replace non-functional turf with new native landscaping at City Hall and beautify the monument landscaping at City Hall as well. So the reason for this project is basically to meet the requirements of AB 1572. Assembly Bill 1572 prohibits the use of potable water to irrigate non-functional turf on commercial, municipal, and multifamily residential properties. This bill has phased requirements. By January 1st, 2027, all municipal and institutional properties must have this in place. So the cost of this project, this is the project, Councilman Holloway, where I was going to break this project into 2 fiscal years. The first part of the project would be the design phase. We would design all of the landscaping necessary to meet AB 1572, and then we would wait to bid this out until next fiscal year. So the design phase would cost $12,000, with the construction phase being approximately $100,000. Funding sources would come from general fund reserves of $78,000, and we plan on applying for a Metropolitan Water District of Orange County rebate, where we approximate we would get $32,000 for the rebate. So the next category is City Hall Bell Tower Regional Community Center projects. We have 2 projects, the City Hall Panel Project, as well as the City Hall BTRCC roof improvements and solar panel installation projects. This first project is the City Hall Panel Project. This project was originally proposed last fiscal year. The project will construct and line the backside of the dais here at the council chambers with hardened panels. Last year, when we were looking into this project, we looked at the as-built and discovered that there are hardened panels at the front of the dais. The extent of those hardened panels only extend to the end of the front here and do not return to either end of the dais. So the scope is reduced for this project to install hardened panels here at the end of the dais. So the approximate cost of doing that is $40,000, and we anticipate using SERA funding for this project. So the next project is the City Hall BTRCC roof improvements and solar panel installation project. So this project, the solar panel roof improvement project, will repair and replace any deficient areas in the existing 25-year-old roof. The solar panel project will install 200 kilowatt solar system panels to offset increased energy costs at the City Hall and BTRCC. The roof repair project, we had a roofing consultant look at the roof, and based on a roof repair deficiency report, we based our design plans on that. And we went out to bid for a roofing consultant to design the plans. And we currently have the plans completed, and we plan on advertising this project within the next couple of weeks. And the construction of the roof repair project will start July or early August. So now that we have the final roof design plans, staff will be preparing an RFP for the solar panel design project, and we should be back to City Council for approval of that contract in July, early August. So the approximate costs for this project, the roof improvements are $840,000. Solar installation project is $1 million. And as part of this project, we will be offsetting costs with an Inflation Reduction Act direct pay rebate of 30% of the total cost of the project. Funding source for these two projects are general funds.
And as a reminder, we are required to install the solar panel project by, what's our deadline, Sri? Another year and a half, or we lose out on the NIMS 2 special rate structure from through Edison. So there is a timeline on this one, and it's in our benefit to complete this project as soon as possible.
Mr. Mayor?
Mayor Pro Tem?
Do we know what the cost, or an estimate of the cost savings once the solar panels are installed?
I know we do have that, but the return on investment is 8 years. So it will save enough over 8 years to pay for the project. And then we'll have, theoretically, we'll have savings. We never really get true savings because they keep raising the rates, but we would be paying way more than we would if we didn't have the project. So
that's the answer. Thank you.
So moving on to the next category of projects are, we have 4 projects that are proposed for next fiscal year in the traffic improvement project category. We have the traffic signal system maintenance project, intersection improvements at Los Flores and Antonio Parkway, and 2 signal sync projects at Santa Margarita Parkway and Antonio Parkway. So Project 23, the traffic signal system maintenance project, is an annual project. It's proposed to dedicate funds to deferred maintenance of the city's traffic signals. Items of work include replacing expired batteries in the battery backup system, rewiring instructions with newer, more reliable fiber systems wire, and replacing signal equipment for intersections that need upgrades. Approximate cost for this project is $55,000. Project 24 is the intersection improvements project at Los Flores and Antonio Parkway. This project is being proposed as a result of public comment regarding the unsafe driving and donuts being performed at this intersection. This project will investigate utilizing improvements such as new striping, raised pavement markers, and box dots to deter this vehicle behavior, and $50,000 is being proposed for this project. The SMP and Antonio signal sync projects, these 2 projects will coordinate traffic signals along these very important corridors to provide more efficient flow of traffic along these corridors. A well-timed coordinated system permits continuous movement with minimum stops and delays, which reduces fuel consumption and improves air quality. The Santa Margarita Parkway signal sync project is underway and is a result of a multi-agency grant application to synchronize Santa Margarita Parkway from the city's easterly limits at Plano Trabuco all the way through Mission Viejo and Lake Forest to Alton Parkway. The Santa Margarita Parkway signal sync project is being led by OCTA and involves the cities of Rancho, Santa Margarita, Mission Viejo, Lake Forest, and Caltrans, and is anticipated to be completed by June. $280,000 of AQMD funding for our portion is being proposed for this project. So the Antonio Parkway signal synchronization project will be led by the City of Rancho Santa Margarita. We'll be the lead on this project. Staff will be coming back to City Council in June. We just went out for an RFP on this project, and we will be awarding the design consultant contract for this project, which is estimated to be $342,000, paid for through Project P grant funds and $85,000 of AQMD funding.
Before we move on real quick, I just wanted to make a mention of the project number 24. That was an example of a project that received constituent input from residents that live over in that area that have experienced sort of, I don't know, wayward vehicular behavior in the intersection. That particular area, and we don't know that it's actually going to cost that amount, but we wanted to make sure that there was enough of a placeholder to do some design work and test it out. It's kind of going to be kind of a pilot project. That particular area, though, is one that city staff has been collaborating, our various departments, because we have a number of issues over in that particular area. We have, I think some of you may have received information about the berms that are continually being built and then taken down. People are using that, kids are using them as bicycle ramps over in that area. We've also heard about potential illegal fireworks in that area. So it is an area where the city departments have been collaborating and trying to come up with various solutions to the activity that happens in a otherwise vacant lot at the end of town that is, there's nothing on the other side of it. So just wanted to highlight that and let you know that this is one of those projects that we are doing to address resident concerns in a particular area.
Thank you. Joe, question for you regarding the signal synchronization programs that are on the screen here. In years past, we've done signal synchronization on these streets. Is there like a useful life to that type of project? What about the efforts of the past? They're obsolete now. Can you just address that?
Sure, Mayor Biel. So the projects that we performed in the past, they are older, but we, as part of these projects, we will be coordinating those projects with these projects, and they will all be connected and be able to communicate as part of one big traffic signal coordination throughout the whole city.
And is there a useful life to what we're doing in this proposal? Is it going to have annual maintenance to adjust it and keep it synchronized, or is it done and we enjoy the benefits for years?
So in terms of the maintenance, I'm sure there will be maintenance in terms of any cameras that go out, but I don't have a cost at this point, but I feel it'll be minimal. The ongoing consultant costs to ensure coordination occurs will be part of the city traffic engineer's consultant budget. And so I don't anticipate that budget to be anything large.
So this will enhance what we've already done in years past?
That's correct.
Okay, thanks.
So the last category of projects are the city's bridge projects. The city owns and maintains 3 bridges in the city. The city has been approved by Caltrans and FHWA to utilize Highway Bridge Program Funds, HBP, to fund a little over 88% of this work. And the following 3 projects will break down the city's current status of these projects. Project number 27, the westbound bridge, Santa Maria Parkway Bridge hinge repair and habitat restoration is complete. The habitat restoration has been conditionally approved by the Fish and Wildlife Service and Caltrans. The condition of approval requires a one-time site maintenance visit in April in 2026 and will be completely done. The eastbound Santa Margarita Parkway Bridge and Antonio Parkway bridges have deferred maintenance needs, although these needs are much less extent than the westbound bridge. And the impacts to residents and the commuters is anticipated to be much less invasive once the construction phase begins. It's more of a superficial maintenance repair on the bridge deck as opposed to structural. The design and environmental components for these projects are all fully funded by HBP. Caltrans just notified the city today that the additional construction funding the city requested for the eastbound SMP Bridge and Antonio Parkway Bridge was approved. This was needed because the original cost estimates were performed in 2014, and increase in cost was allowed due to inflationary costs since then. So approximate cost for all projects is $3.79 million. The city's match through gas tax is $440,000, and the federally funded portion of the projects are $3.35 million.
That's a fast question.
Mayor Pro Tem?
The habitat restoration, this has been going on for years. I mean, I can't remember, probably 10 years at least, roughly. Are we still paying?
Are you referring to the one on the bridge or the other
The
big?
habitat restoration below the bridge that
It hasn't been that long. I think it's been about 5 years.
seems like 10 years. But, I know we were paying.
Yeah, it's not. It wasn't very much, and now we're down to one final inspection. But they've pretty much signed off on it. We're confident that it's going to
We
be
have
done.
to do anything between now and that final inspection to make sure it passes inspection?
No, Councilmember McGurr. We had substantial completion of the mitigation and the habitat, and it's just a one-time check-in in April, which is going to be very minor. And it's just a closure
Knock on wood.
report.
Okay.
Knock on wood, yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, so moving out to the notable out-year projects. We have, just for discussion, to let council know some of the big projects in the following year. We have the Antonio Parkway Pavement Rehab Project. This will be from the city limits to Harris Creek. It's approximately $1.25 million proposed via RMRA and gas tax. And for fiscal year 26-27, staff is proposing the skate park improvements project, which is about $157,000, using the Park Trust Quimby fees and general fund reserves. So on this project, I would like to elicit conversation regarding the possibility of using the Quimby funds for two other possible projects. There are improvements related to the splash pad that could be a good place to spend the park fees. I think it would be a good use of the funds given the amount of usage the splash pad sees. Improvements to the splash pad would include improving shade coverage at the park, repainting and restoration of decorative features. We estimate these improvements would be approximately $50,000 to $70,000. Another possibility for the use of these funds would be fitness equipment at the BTRCC. And so if City Council prefers to keep the skate park improvement project at year 2, we could do that. But at this point, we'd like to just hear opinions on where council believes the park trust fees would best be used.
Do you have any information for the council relative to current usage at the skate park relative to the splash pad? I remember when the skate park was first constructed, there was a citywide survey that was done, and the skate park was, I think, the number one most requested item. It was a highly desirable thing. I don't know how much it's used anymore. I haven't been on a skateboard for a while.
I don't think we have that information with us this evening. I do know that the splash pad gets a lot of use, but it's only seasonal versus the skate park is open year round. In light of the time, and I know we want to get through some other things, I would propose, if the council would entertain it, that we bring back an item for council discussion at an appropriate time sometime, because this is an out-year project anyway. This is not for fiscal year 26, 20, or 25, 26. that we could bring back some alternatives and talk about the ideas that we might have for that, and the council will have all of the right information for the council to make a informed decision at a future time.
And we're talking about Quimby funds, right? We're not talking about
Correct.
general reserve funds.
Well, no, we have about $47,000 left in Quimby funds. It's not enough to do any one particular project, except maybe one tiny minor project. But we'll bring back some options for the council to consider at another council meeting.
I don't know what skate park improvements what that would entail. Redesigning the skate park or?
No, we had a design that was ready to go a couple of years ago that made some minor modifications to it. It got rid of that one thing. I guess it's like the volcano. The skaters don't like it anymore. It doesn't serve their purpose. And then we would do some additional shade features and refresh that particular area. It does get a lot of use. It is aging. It could use a refresh, but the splash pad will have been 5-6 years old at that point, and that also could use a refresh. So we'll bring back some options if that's okay with the council.
Councilmember Holloway.
I agree with the mayor there. I think the numbers for the skate park will be important. Do you take numbers, or is there a way to count the kids?
I don't know about the skate park, although we do have cameras over there. But the splash pad, we do gauge on a regular basis how many kids come.
It seems to me, is going back, that as far as the skate park, we asked the same question a number of years ago. Staff might have had to go out for a period of time, a couple of weeks, to get some numbers, because there was video then too, but I don't think you can go through, and that's not realistic. But I think it's going to be important on moving forward. If there's numbers like there were when we built it, that's one thing, and if there's not, then that's another discussion.
We'll do some research, and we'll get some information for you and bring back some options for the council to consider.
Is it the same thing as the dog park? I thought there was like a counter on the door there or something.
I'm not aware of a counter on the door. No, but we have some interns starting, and I think that would be a really great assignment for them to go take some counts of the attendance.
Yeah. Put them to work.
All right, good idea.
Thank you.
Okay, the next project is project number 15. This is that Civic Center non-functional turf replacement project where construction will occur in year 2. Next project is the bell tower generator enclosure. This project is $150,000, and we're proposing to pay this via FEMA grant. Project 21, I have to note here there's a little bit of a typo. I added an extra 0, so no sticker shock here. The BTRCC floor replacement project, Arts and Craft Health and Fitness Rooms project is proposed to be $52,000. And this will be proposed funding via general fund reserves. And the last notable project in year 3 is the Antonio Parkway pavement rehab from Tejeras Creek to Via Ladera. And that project will be $750,000 proposed via RMRA and gas tax. So that concludes my presentation. I'd be happy to answer any more questions.
Council, anything else for Mr. Parco? Thank you for your presentation.
Okay, we are going to move on to, I believe it's Development Services is next. The next few are department budgets. I don't anticipate there's not a lot of changes that we're proposing in any of them, but certainly we're here to answer any questions that you may have, and the council will have another opportunity to discuss the budget on budget adoption night, which is, I believe, June 11th, yes. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to our Assistant City Manager, Development Services Director, Cheryl Kuda.
Thank you, Jennifer. Good evening, Mayor Beal and members of the City Council. The Development Services budget is a little lower this year than in the coming year than the current fiscal year. You see on the last bullet here on the page that we have completed several advanced planning projects. So we are working on the final, putting the final touches on the local hazard mitigation plan update and the circulation element update. And with that, we will have updated all of the elements of the general plan since 2020. So we're all updated and don't anticipate any major general plan updates in the next couple of years. We do have a couple of minor zoning code updates, a little bit of budget allocated for that under general fund reserves. Those will include an update with respect to ADUs and thrift stores based on recent changes to state law, as well as the triennial building code updates, which will be coming to you in the fall. We also have an anti-camping ordinance coming in the next couple of months. Going back up to the top of the slide, we have kept our standard CDBG funding allocations. You heard about that at our last council meeting. We are anticipating level funding there. Our building and safety budget has been kept flat. As Stephanie has mentioned a couple of times, we're seeing some fluctuations in the types of permits that we're getting, but the revenues are generally very consistent. Economic development is an important part of the development services budget. This year we have activities including ICSC Business Attraction Conference, Chamber of Commerce support for Rancho Family Fest, and our subscriptions to the CoStar and Placer services. So in a nutshell, our budget is down a little bit, mainly because of the completion of those projects. That concludes my part. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer. Otherwise, I'm going to turn the presentation back over to the City Manager for General Government.
Any questions? Councilmember Holloway.
Mr. Mayor, thank you. The economic development component, I see you've got a budget of 82,000, all right?
That's correct.
And obviously, economic development has had a lot of lives through the years. Can you talk a little bit more about whether or not you feel that there is more that we could do if there were more funds, or? And I know the work that you do. We talk about this on a frequent basis. What else, if there is anything else that we could do as a council to increase, and I'm actually very specific, increase the revenue of our businesses, help them increase their income?
I think the Chamber of Commerce is doing a great job of that this year, and they have taken on some new initiatives where they have partnered with the SBDC to bring things in for small businesses, medium businesses. There's a 3-part series on AI for small and medium businesses. So they're really taking an educational look this year, and we're helping out with those wherever we can in terms of space at the bell tower and sending staff to monitor those. So not that there isn't more that could be done or that we couldn't do, but I do want to put a shout out to them that they've really upped that part of their business this year. In terms of what we do, the Placer AI has been a really interesting and good addition to our toolbox, because when we're talking to businesses that are either thinking of coming in or maybe struggling a little bit, we can show them, here's the foot traffic to your business, here's the foot traffic to your competitors. There's so many different reports that we can run based on the questions that they have. So I think that, along with CoStar, we've really, I think we've got a good, solid foundation right now. We don't have HDL in there this year. We've used them for a couple of years. We're taking a year off from that to see how we can do and how we can support things locally.
In terms of measurables with ICSC, the Chamber of Commerce, and what you have for CoStar, I know that's a tougher component of this, very difficult. Been part of ICSC, see how the Chamber operates. Are there really any measurables that you've come across through the years that, okay, we're spending X and or is that just not really a fair comparison?
Well,
There's somewhat subjective measurables. So we can point to specific businesses around town that are ICSC successes. Some of them took several years, but they did start as a meeting at ICSC. Another thing that I think is measurable is our success in setting up meetings this year. We generally have between 8 and 10 or 11 meetings on our schedule for ICSC over the 2 days. We have 13 this year, and I had to turn people down. So we're getting better at getting people's attention and getting people that want to come and speak to us based on our past experiences. So we learn something new every year about how to approach those businesses or those tenant representatives or whatever the case may be.
Are there measurables in reference to the chamber?
We'd have to. I think their measurables. I don't have their data, but the number of events that they're putting on, the number of smaller educational events. They do biweekly coffees in the morning with speakers, and I don't know their numbers right now, but I know they have been growing their membership.
Are there measurables you could talk about? I'm sorry, I really appreciate what you guys do, but I'm interested if those measurables, if there's anything we can do as a council to enhance that.
Yeah, so, and by the way, good evening, Mayor and council members. So in terms of measurables, kind of like Ms. Kuda said, that they are subjective. You know, this is all private company financial statements that they're keeping to themselves and they don't necessarily share with the Chamber of Commerce. So the way we measure the success of some of the things that we're doing is effectively by attendance. So to give you an example, we've been running the bi-weekly networking meeting for a little over a year now, and we've had some pretty good following, a good group. We recently made a change to Hot Cafe, and we've seen an explosion of growth. And we've even had people pay to attend, and they're still growing with that attendance, which tells us people are getting benefit out of it, and if you're running a business, the benefit is increased revenue, otherwise you wouldn't show up. And then the other example I would give is any event that we're putting on where we have business booths and people are able to sell their services or at least advertise their services. Those sell out very quickly, and many of those businesses will return year after year, which again is another subjective measurable that they would not pay the money to reserve a booth and return if it was not yielding a dividend to them.
Businesses that say, hey, based on what the assistance they got from you, that their income increased? Do you get that input from them?
No, we've never gotten that direct feedback, and if we have, it's been in casual conversation, perhaps with other chamber board members. But we have considered doing a little bit more on the survey front to see what kind of feedback we can get from members. Typically, our feedback is more along the lines of what can we be doing that we're not doing that you would like to see from us, and less so much sort of data-driven, trying to extract data from our membership. But I don't see a reason why we couldn't start to do that. I think it would be perhaps helpful for the city, but also helpful for ourselves.
Thank you. Thank you.
You want to continue?
All right. So general government, this typically involves our finance department, city manager's office, city attorney's budget, and our city clerk's office, as well as HR and risk management. So it encompasses a lot of different functions. As you know, we're a service organization. We provide service. You have to have employees to provide service. So our number one cost in the organization is our employee costs. As we've done in past years, we are proposing range adjustments. It's performance-based range adjustments, so the range would move, but the employee needs to obtain a satisfactory or above performance evaluation in order to earn a percentage up to 5%. The total cost, and this is an up to for the coming fiscal year, is $190,000. Again, they need to earn that. Some of them are eligible for merit increases, and others would be through a range adjustment. that would not exceed the average of our comp cities. There's no cost of living adjustment proposed, and there's also no proposed increase to the medical insurance cafeteria allowance. That would remain at $2,000 per month. More information will be provided on the employee program at our June meeting. We are now in year 3 of the unfunded liability retirement paydown plan. This was something that the council instituted a few years ago, and it has a special funding bucket in the reserves specifically for this purpose. And then the other thing with respect to personnel costs is we've included we've included sustained staff training and development opportunities. We find that it's really important for our employees, especially we have employees that have been here for a while now, several years. I think we have employees that are exceeding 10, almost 15 years now, and it's really important that they stay up to date on their skills and be able to network with other employees in other cities, and that's how we learn about a lot of these new initiatives when we do bring them, or a better way of doing things. And then in terms of some of the non-departmental, that's where most of our technology budget lies. And we've budgeted very similarly to previous years. There's not a whole lot there other than just our annual turnover of computers. We have to pay, everything's subscription based now. All of our programs are subscription based. And then as everyone is seeing, we're seeing a lot of increase in our general liability, property, and workers' comp insurances. Even though we don't pay out a lot, we don't have very many claims, actually, but insurance just in general is going up quite a bit, as you probably know in your own homes and businesses as well. And then in the city clerk's office, we always see that fluctuation from year to year where we have a municipal election and we don't. So this happens to be a year where we don't have a municipal election, and so we don't budget for that, and you'll see a decrease in the city clerk's budget as a result. I have nothing further on general government at the moment. Unless there's a question, we're gonna finish this up with community services.
Yeah, Ms. City Manager, our city staff, we serve 50,000 residents, and we've got a pretty lean and efficient operation. We've heard earlier tonight all the great results. #1 ranking in safety. We're financially strong with a balanced budget. Finished last year and projecting this year we'll have a surplus. We have reserves equal to a year. How many full-time employees do we have here at City Hall to serve all 50,000 residents and achieve these kind of results?
I believe we have 25.
25.
Is that correct?
It might be 24.
It might be 24. Oh, I might have overdone that. So yes, 24 or 25. I will tell you, when we are out, I go to a conference, right? And they'll say, oh, Rancho Santa Margarita, where is that? Oh, that's South Orange County. And then once they kind of figure out where they're at, their next question is, how many employees do you have? And the conference I'm thinking of it was a risk management conference, so they're focused on employees. And I says, well, we have 25 full-time employees. And their immediate thought is that we are a city of like 15,000 people because we only have 25 employees. And when I tell them that we have approximately almost 50,000 residents, they're just blown away by that because we have such a low staff to resident ratio. It's lower than it should be for a city our size. And I mean, much of that is due to the way that the city was structured when it was incorporated, with having our partners in SAMLARC and the Structural Fire Fund for OCFA, and that certainly adds to that. But we are very lean. We have not added a full-time employee in terms of FTEs in years at this point.
It's really remarkable, and it's one reason why our city is so financially strong, stable. And the results speak for themselves. It's a tribute to the members of our staff, all 24 of you. You're terrific, professional, experienced, and dedicated, and you're achieving such great results for the residents and of this city and the business owners. I just want to say thank you. And I wanted to ask the question because I think a lot of people just take for granted there must be a lot more, but we're achieving quite a bit of great results with a limited but very professional and dedicated staff. So thank you. Any other comments or questions for Jennifer? Okay, why don't we go on?
All right, and now I am going to ask up Wendy Reddington to talk about community services.
Thank you, City Manager. Good evening, Council, Mayor and City Council. Thank you for allowing the opportunity to reflect on the Community Services Department tonight. The proposed Community Services budget reflects a 3% decrease from last year. However, with this slight decrease, the Bell Tower Regional Community Center remains fully operational and continues to remain staffed at balanced levels. The department continues to offer a full variety of classes for all ages, ranging from arts, fitness, health and safety, to enriching STEAM programs. And our enrollment numbers continue to rise, so we're happy about that. The facility rentals remain strong and in high demand, with approximately 40 organizations using the community center, 25 of which do so on a regular basis. Currently, all weekends for the year are booked, except for 2 weekends each in August and September, but we do have verbal commitments pending. The facility sees frequent weekday use by homeowners associations, businesses, and local high schools, with private or corporate events utilizing the facility on the weekends. This highlights the importance of the building as a versatile and essential community resource. With respect to facility usage, the forthcoming vacancy at the community center has created a valuable opportunity to expand. As part of ongoing efforts to maximize space, funding has been allocated to support minor facility upgrades and explore other uses. While no single dedicated use has been considered, this area can easily be repurposed and used as a flexible multi-use area to support ongoing expansion of city programs. This space could support an array of offerings such as exercise and self-care workshops, intergenerational and enrichment workshops, civic engagement, and seasonal events, allowing the city to stay responsive to evolving community needs. By maintaining this area as a versatile environment, the city will be well positioned to address both current and future needs of the community. Ultimately, we want to ensure this space brings value to the community. An option could be for seniors. As the senior population continues to grow, we remain committed to serving their needs by offering dynamic and engaging calendar of activities throughout the year. Popular classes among seniors include balloon volleyball, chair exercise, flower arranging, hula dance, tai chi, yoga, line dancing, all of which support physical wellness, creativity, and social connection. In addition to these reoccurring programs, special offerings like Friday Flicks and themed art classes are especially well received, providing opportunities for relaxation, enrichment, and community bonding. Our senior mobility program also plays a vital role in supporting these efforts by offering essential travel services. This program provides free 24/7 taxi service for adults aged 60 and over who reside in RSM. Funded in partnership with OCTA, the Senior Mobility Program currently supports over 400 RSM seniors in maintaining their independence. Participants use a special ID card to schedule rides directly with the taxi company, making the program flexible, user-friendly, and accessible. Whether it's for medical appointments, grocery shopping, or social outings, the Senior Mobility Program helps ensure that our seniors' residents remain mobile. Last year, nearly 3,000 rides were booked, keeping our seniors engaged and connected to the community. The budget proposes a slight decrease in cost for the Community Living magazine. To manage the rising costs of paper and postage, we are transitioning from our traditional magazine format to a more cost-effective tabloid-style brochure. This change helps us reduce expenses while continuing to deliver valuable information to our community. In addition, staff has been enhancing our social media efforts to help drive strong participation in our numbers across all programs. The budget also includes support for key annual events like the Summer Concert Series, Patriot Day commemoration, Veterans Day reception, and the New Year's Eve event. The community continues to enjoy all these activities. Additionally, some funds have been set aside to celebrate the city's 25th anniversary with special programming and community engagement. In summary, even with a slightly leaner budget, community services continues to grow, adapt, and innovate to serve our residents and enhance their quality of life. The department remains committed to providing high-quality programs and events that promote community wellness, civic engagement, and intergenerational connections. That concludes my presentation. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Wendy. Any questions for staff? Councilmember Barrett.
Hi, Wendy. Thank you. So I have a couple of questions. You said that the senior population in RSM is growing. Do you know what percentage?
I don't, but I could look. I'd have to look at the last census that was done. But I've been here since 2002, and when I started, there was 2,000. Then there was 4,000, and I think the last I heard there was approximately 6,000. I'd have to look.
Okay. And then you talked about that there's some $50,000 that's been budgeted for council feedback for the bell tower, for that space in the bell tower. In here, it says an amount of $50,000 has been budgeted for the fiscal year to explore opportunities for the bell tower. Can you talk a little bit about the opportunities that you wanted us to think about?
I am at the direction of the city council, so I'm open to hear your thoughts. But I'm here to support whatever direction the council decides, and I'm happy to explore any options.
Have you heard from the community about anything that they might want to see?
I have not.
Okay, thank you.
The city manager.
At this moment, with the 50,000 as a placeholder, and first we intend to do some refreshing at the space, the former youth lounge. It needs some repairs to the floor. The walls need to be repaired, repainted, that kind of thing. Probably we need to buy some more furniture and new furniture because we don't have any in there. And then we, at this point, intend to continue with our programming for seniors, our class programs, and that would be an additional space for that class programming to be, as well as anyone that may want to rent the space for something. But it's intended to be an active recreation use and more space for our existing programs.
Councilmember Holloway.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Wendy, is looking at the 2.5 Marine line items, $5,000. Is that a reduction, or has it been that number?
It's been that number.
It has?
Yeah,
Okay.
it has. It was higher back when we first adopted, and they were fighting, I suppose, overseas, but we've reduced it since they've been home and just doing trainings.
They don't. So does it say they don't need more? Are there opportunities that we've turned down? I mean, I'm open.
We have not turned down any. With this money, they only provide a wish list because they can't ask for things.
Oh.
So I talked to their coordinator like by almost every couple weeks and check in, and they give me their wish list. This last event that we supported was their spring fling. So we went down and hosted a game booth, and we gave away toys and gift cards and a bunch of items. We do have a new lieutenant colonel who is planning on coming up in the near future, so I'm working on getting him scheduled to come on up.
Have we had to say no to them?
No.
Pass? Okay. All right. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate the presentation.
All right, that is our general fund and capital improvement program budget. At this point, if council has any questions, we're here to answer them. If you want to provide direction on any of the items that you've heard, any feedback you have for any of the programs or services that we offer to be included in the budget or changed or adjusted, now would be a great opportunity. We will otherwise come back in June with the final budget. But
Thank you for that. I know we've asked questions and had discussion along the way. Are there any final questions or comments for city staff from the council? Councilmember Holloway?
One last, great presentation, everybody. Thank you. In terms of the 25th, any other expenses needed that aren't baked into this budget that we need to talk about, or is it all?
we have everything covered unless there's something else you want. We're adding a concert. Aren't we adding a concert? 2 concerts? We're adding 2 concerts.
Saw that.
Oh, I'm sorry. 2 bands to 1 concert. We're adding a concert, right? Yeah. And then we're adding 2 bands to a concert.
It's a total of 6 summer concerts.
We're having an extra concert this year. The June 29th concert. And it's going to be...
That's in addition to the 6?
It is. And
Okay.
it's going to be a big shindig. And we're going to have extra activities that day. That's kind of going to be our big kind of summer 25th celebration. We've been adding little things to all of our events as we celebrate the 25th. We have a little 25th logo. You're going to see some extra things at the summer concerts. We have a new, we're getting T-shirts, I think, again this year. So there's a variety of little things that we've been sprinkling throughout the year. I would say one area, if I had to, and it's based on what was mentioned tonight, that we could probably use a little bit of extra funding in, is the holiday decor, because that the price has increased on that, and I think we put in an extra $10,000, and that probably will not purchase the decor for the new monument sign on Antonio. So if the council's looking for ways to add a little bit of something somewhere without it being anything to break the bank, that would be an area I would advocate for, just because I know that we're going to have a hard time finding something that looks great for $10,000.
Can I ask a question on that?
Sure.
Yes.
So is this also a refresh of the current decor that we've had? Because I've heard from people that it looks a little faded, some of the items. So are we looking at, and I think some actually got blown away or something, or I don't know, one of the bows in Melinda Heights disappeared. So are we looking at refreshing all of it, or?
I think we have total, about 20 in the budget. And so some of that was for existing and some of that was for added. But yes, we would love to do all of that. We'll make do with what we have. That'll be able to refresh some things and buy some things. But to be really what the council, I think, would want, we'd need a little bit more money.
Along those lines, are we sharing costs with Sam Lark with regard to Christmas decorations?
No, what we were sharing costs, and that's already been paid for, and well, I take that back. There's 2 components to that. So there's the wrapped lights around the palm trees out in Central Park. And we shared the cost with Sam Lark for that because they're going to be up for 2 years. So they're up a year to celebrate the 25th anniversary. And then they're going to be up a year after that to celebrate Sam Lark's 30th, I think, or 35th anniversary. 35th. I think it's their 35th. So we shared the cost on that. And the other thing that we've shared the cost on is the banners, the holiday banners that go up. And I think we have one more final year. I believe that's in the budget, and it's not very much at all. And then we're done. All of the banners will have been purchased, and then it's just a recurring installation and takedown every year that Sam Lark pays for.
I'm in favor of Brad's idea initially about the new monument have it look just as good as the Alicia T monument, because if it doesn't, it's going to, wait a minute, that's a highlight of a brand new, beautiful monument. So if you need some more money, I'm up for it.
I think you have a pretty good notion of what might need refurbishing, and you probably have some plans already about what new items you might want to get. You say you might need a little bit more. I mean, do you have a number in mind that would get you what you think you need?
I would have a range in mind, but if I could bring that back at the June meeting, we'll have actual numbers then.
After ICSC.
Right, after ICSC, we'll have actual numbers, so.
Why don't you plan on bringing that back?
I will, okay.
Mr. Mayor, yeah, on that note, I mean, I probably get more compliments regarding the Christmas sign. People absolutely love it, and I think it brings in so much festivity into our city. So I would agree with that. I think we should make it look just as good. Yeah.
Anything else?
I just have one final note.
Sure.
Just wanted to thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just wanted to thank city staff for, I know how much work this is that goes into this, Stephanie. I know, especially you, how much work that this goes into. And I think it's just a real testament to our city council, our city staff, that our budget is fairly consistent. I mean, it really was amazing, you know, how close those numbers were. And I think that's really what a lot of cities in California can't say that, right? And also, I think it's because of our fiscal responsibility. You know, it's really important to point out that our city does not have to take out any debt on these capital improvement projects. We're pulling this out of general fund. Most cities, that's not the case. And so I'm very proud of our staff. I'm very proud of what we've done in the past. And these meetings are always great news, just because we hear what we already know. So I just want to thank everybody. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, Ms. City Manager.
I just in closing, and I just wanted to recognize and thank some of the folks behind the scenes that work on this, because it is. Thank you, Ann, for indicating that it is a long project. It takes many months to put together. There's a lot of back and forth. There's a lot of going through the numbers once, twice, 2,000 times to make sure they're right. So in addition to Stephanie, Sloan Smith, I think Sloan, is she still here? She's in the back over there. She works closely with Stephanie on that. And then I also want to recognize their hard work on the CIP, which is Terry Gregory and Tree Nguyen, who are also in the audience tonight. And it's a lot of effort to put that together, and we do our best to provide as much information as possible. I know there are times we don't have everything available at the tips of our fingers, but we promise and commit to the council to bring all of the information that you need to make decisions. So thank you.
Thank you. Great job. That concludes our agenda, so we're going to adjourn. The next regular meeting of the City Council will be held Wednesday, May 14th, 2025, 7 p.m. right here in our council chambers. Thanks for attending. Meeting adjourned.